Drinking black tea calmly at Hogwarts. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 576 The Night Banquet. Xinhua News Agency, Hogsmeade, December 7th. Reporter Liu Lian, on December 7th, 1997 local time, Zhao Hao, Deputy Director of the Central Advisory Committee, hosted a dinner in Hogsmeade and invited the British Minister of Magic, Rufus Scrimgeour. In his speech, Zhao Hao reviewed the new progress in cooperation between the two countries in various fields in recent years, highly praised Minister Scrimgeour's contribution to promoting the development of bilateral relations, and hoped that the friendly cooperation between the two countries will continue to reach new heights. Zhao Hao said that both countries are major economies in the world and are each other's important cooperative partners. At the end of the month, Chinese leaders will pay a state visit to the UK. We are willing to take advantage of the momentum with the UK to plan and promote. Zhao Hao pointed out that my country is further opening up, and a series of new measures are being implemented one after another, and British commercial enterprises have become the first beneficiary. We welcome more British companies to invest in China, and at the same time hope that the UK will create a fair environment for Chinese companies to invest and operate in the UK. We are willing to expand people-to-people and cultural exchanges with the UK to consolidate the public opinion foundation for bilateral relations. Zhao Hao emphasized that the current international situation is undergoing complex and profound changes as to bring more stability to the world while benefiting the two peoples. Scrimgeour said that this visit has enabled me to further appreciate the profound friendship between the two countries and feel the increasingly close people-to-people and cultural exchanges between the two countries, willing to further expand the scale of bilateral trade, gradually open your country to invest in the UK, strengthen dialogue between the two sides, and work with you to safeguard free trade and the existing international order. After the dinner, Zhao Hao held an informal meeting with Scrimgeour, which was beneficial. The two sides fully exchanged views on issues of common concern and enhanced understanding. Zhang Su, cultural counselor of the Chinese embassy in the UK, and others participated in the above activities. Located in the north of Scotland, Hogsmeade is the only village in the UK where all residents are composed of wizards. It was built at the end of the 10th century and the beginning of the 11th century, and the founder was Hengus in a silent world fly down floating all over the sky. It dances so lightly. What did you talk about tonight? Fu Rong asked Zhang Su, and covering her with a quilt. That is trade. When we went to the candy store this afternoon, didn't we see that the candy store was out of stock? Beginning this month, various manufacturers in the UK suddenly collectively stopped supplying goods to Hogsmeade merchants, and they are now only supplying goods to merchants operating in Diagon Alley. This afternoon, when Furin was picking candies for Gabriel in the candy store, Zhang Su got the news from the boss and his wife. The Honeyduke's candy store was not the only one that encountered this situation. Except for the stores that sold imported goods and self-produced goods in the entire Hogsmeade, other businesses were sold out by their upstream manufacturers. Even self-produced and self-sold stores are facing the threat of out of stock of raw materials. So they want to buy goods from you, Fu Rong immediately responded. Zhang Su nodded. There is no need to hide this from Fleur. As long as Scrimgeour is not stupid, he will not put all his eggs in one basket. Just now, when everyone was full and started negotiating, Scrimgeour explicitly stated that he would greet fellow Europeans on the other side of the strait at the same time, so don't ask too high a price. Facing such a huge piece of cake in the British market, if the Ministry of Magic of France and other European countries does not send someone to come in a few days, his name on Zhang's household registration book will be changed to Zhang Jiajia. Zhang Su pinched Fu Rong's nose and said, "Okay, you go to sleep, I will come over tomorrow." It takes a kiss to fall asleep. North wind snowflakes fly all over the sky. The snow is getting bigger and bigger, and the wind is unwilling to be lonely. Together with the snow, it is rampaging in every corner of this land. Back at Hogwarts, Zhang Su half-lied on the recliner on the balcony of the professor's dormitory, watching the snowflakes outside the balcony under the candlelight, holding a thermos in his hand, slowly digesting what happened tonight. Zhang Su was not surprised by Scrimgeour's visit today. He had already expected this. Behind this incident is not just the simple business Li and Furin said to do business, but also a series of incidents that happened recently, which put a lot of pressure on Scrimgeour. It's just that he didn't expect that the straw that broke the camel's back was the kidnapping of Mrs. Weasley. Since the British Ministry of Magic was divided into two parts, the North and the South, both Ministry of Magic are working hard to rebuild an orthodox Ministry of Magic. However, on the crucial point of rebuilding the Wizengamot, the Southern Ministry of Magic, with the efforts of Lucius Malfoy, who is good at dancing, has won the support of nearly half of the original Wizengamot members. If it weren't for more than half of the original Wizengamot members who chose to wait and see, the Northern Ministry of Magic, which was supported by only a few former Wizengamot members, would have suffered a crushing defeat. However, recent news indicated that after Malfoy gained the support of various capitalist families, more and more members of the original Wizengamot began to flirt with the Southern Ministry of Magic. In this way, the pressure on Scrimgeour will be great. In addition, the capital tycoons who supported Malfoy began to use their commercial weapons, and had already brought back some businesses that had escaped from Diagon Alley. When these bigwigs manipulated Diagon Alley to transfuse blood to the Southern Ministry of Magic, they simultaneously cut off the blood supply to Hogsmeade and the Northern Ministry of Magic behind it. Especially now that the Christmas shopping season has arrived, if Hogsmeade, the business card of the Northern Ministry of Magic, suffers from economic depression due to the continuous economic blockade, it will deal a serious blow to the reputation of the Northern Ministry of Magic. At the same time, as economic activity picks up in Diagon Alley, the prestige of the Southern Ministry of Magic will also increase. Under the ebb and flow, the grassroots wizards who originally favored the Northern Ministry of Magic will lean towards the Southern Ministry of Magic. If the grassroots wizards and capital bosses all sided with the Southern Ministry of Magic, then Scrimgeour had no choice but to tie Harry Potter to Diagon Alley and let him and Voldemort single out such a way to come back. So Scrimgeour had to open the door to foreign capital in a short period of time, with the intention of prospering the northern market in the shortest possible time, in order to fight against Diagon Alley in the south. The Wizarding World market in the UK was originally a relatively closed market, where local protection prevailed. And the reason why Scrimgeour took such extreme measures to brutally open the country to let foreign capital rush in to grab meat in the market was the failure of the operation to rescue Mrs. Weasley last night. The current position of the Weasley family is very delicate. Among the 6 fields of soldiers, farmers, businessmen and soldiers, apart from agriculture, Arthur Weasley has a good reputation in the Ministry of Magic. Bill and his twin brothers are very delicate, successful in industry and commerce, and have a very high prestige among Hogwarts students. The Harry trio were all close to the Weasleys, and Percy was well known among Aurors at home and abroad. It is even more delicate in the field of diplomacy. This morning, Mrs. Weasley's American cousin, relatives in Russia and France, and the leaders of Herba's work unit also approached Scrimgeour, expressing that they paid great attention to this matter. Malfoy's wife in exchange for hostages. Therefore, according to Zhang Su's analysis, Scrimgeour, who is under great pressure, had to make a necessary compromise in the face of the opponent's set of combined punches, first solve one of the problems and relieve some of the pressure. It's just that Scrimgeour may not have expected that, even though they are both wizards, the way of thinking of the people from the East is different from his. According to Scrimgeour's prediction, when he pulls in European countries, these European compatriots who have been envious of the British market for many years will inevitably raise their butcher's knives and slash at him. So he also brought in a certain country from the East, trying to use it as a price tag for bargaining with his European compatriots. If my European compatriots ask too much, then I will cooperate with my Asian friends. It's just that some people who like to use the price of cabbage to go the way of others, and finally make people have nowhere to go. After receiving a call early in the morning, they rushed to the nearest airport with a flight to the UK before they even had breakfast went. Thinking of this, Zhang Su drank the hot water in the thermos in one gulp, stretched his waist, and went back to sleep under the covers. He still had to be busy for the next few days. In the past few years, he managed to make a breakthrough in the British Magic Society market. Next, it was time for some people behind him to rush towards the breach along with the charger. Chapter 577 Harry and number 039, S trio is going to make trouble again. TT cold is just one word, I only say it once. You know, I'll just say that with a shudder. Last night, Peeves spent a whole night opening all the windows in the castle corridor. The cold wind howled through the windows of the castle and passed through every corridor. The worst thing was that Peeves also opened the doors and windows of almost every classroom, and all the fires in the classroom fireplaces were blown out by the cold wind, making the whole classroom as cold as an ice hole. Among all the classrooms, only the potions classroom in the basement is in better condition, because it is not very ventilated in the basement, and it can only ensure that the students in the classroom will not be poisoned by carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide. Period. The ones that suffered the most were the defense against the dark arts classrooms. The few textbooks that Lupin kept in it were half frozen to death. Only the few near the fireplace supported themselves for a while with the residual heat from the fireplace, and they were shivering there when Lupin arrived. The second is the classroom of herbal medicine class. Many of the herbs grown in tropical areas that Professor Sprout raised in it are finished, and only a few pots of cold-resistant ones are fine. Even the Muggle Studies classroom was brutally murdered. When Zhang Su arrived, his blue hummingbird, which had been with him for several years, was frozen solid. Many students were also recruited. When they walked from the warm common room to the corridor, the huge temperature difference made many people sneeze. During breakfast, sneezing came and went. When it was lunchtime, many people simply went to the school doctor's office to get medicine before going to the cafeteria to eat. However, for many first-year students, drinking the cold medicine in the school infirmary that can make steam come out of the ears is an extremely interesting experience. Many Muggle-born students even plan to buy a few bottles to take back as a gift. Christmas gift giving. There is a trend of not giving gifts during the holidays this year, and only giving cold medicine as gifts. Compared with the students who recovered after drinking the medicine, some students were not so lucky. They had to ask for leave and lay down in the ward of the school infirmary, took a potion from Madame Pomfrey that could engrave the taste in the soul, and then pinched their noses and suffocated it in one breath. The worse the taste of the potion, the better, so that patients can appreciate the value of health. Madame Pomfrey said to Harry's trio after drinking the potion, "Do you still have an appetite for dinner?" Zhang Su, who came with Ginny to deliver dinner to the 3 patients, asked. The 3 of Harry shook their heads. The strong cold potion just now tasted too bad, and they still haven't recovered from it. "Then I'll put dinner here first. Eat when you have an appetite. I still have work to do." Zhang Su put a large plate of sandwiches on the table next to Harry's bed, and then turned to leave. "Are you going to Hogsmeade again?" Ron asked, his voice thick and nasal due to his cold. "Yeah, I've been so busy these past 2 days. I was arrested as a coolie, and I almost didn't have time to change my homework." Zhang Su complained, "But it's not a bad thing. Watch the Daily Prophet." "By the way, has Peeves been caught?" Harry asked in a hoarse voice. "He's hiding in a blocked secret passage," Zhang Su said unwillingly, "otherwise I'll give him a good education." After Zhang Su finished speaking, he left. When he walked out of the door of the ward for 2 minutes, the trio of Harry on the bed were now relieved. "It seems he didn't see it," said Harry. "Ginny, have you brought the Marauder's map?" "Here." Ginny took out the Marauder's map from her pocket, and handed it to Harry. At this moment, the door of the ward opened, and Harry was so frightened that he quickly stuffed the Marauder's map under the quilt. Madame Pomfrey first looked at the nervous Harry suspiciously, and then she saw Ginny, who was also nervous and at a loss. Her face slipped. He said jokingly to Harry, "I'm going to leave for a while. Call me again if there is anything to do. Note that this is a ward, and there are other people on the bed next to it. Don't disturb their rest." After Madame Pomfrey finished speaking, she closed the door and left. Harry blushed and took out the Marauder's map and unfolded it and put it on the hospital bed. Hermione and Ron, who looked unhappy, jumped out of the hospital bed and walked over. Ginny, who also blushed, ran to the door to guard them. "He really went to the room of requirement," Harry said, pointing to Zhang Su's name on the Marauder's map. "As I expected, in such a snowstorm, he will definitely not walk to Hogsmeade in the snowstorm." Hermione said, "He will definitely take the secret path." "It's really possible to leave Hogwarts through that secret passage?" Ron asked. He had heard that all the secret passages are now equipped with magic. In the evacuation plan, there is a plan for students to evacuate to Hogsmeade through this secret passage. Hermione replied, "Yesterday, I specifically asked Professor McGonagall about this matter, and the professor told me that it is not used inside. The spell will be fine, just get over the fear of the spell inside." As the chairwoman of the student union, Hermione is entitled to know some things about the secret passage. Coupled with her good student image over the years, Professor McGonagall doesn't mind letting her know more. At this time, Zhang Su's name on the Marauder's map had already entered the secret passage. Harry saw that Zhang Su had indeed gone out from the secret passage, and a stone in his heart finally fell to the ground. From now on, let's act according to the plan," Harry said. "Now let's have dinner first." Night divider night. The hour hand on the watch had reached between 2 and 3, and almost all the people in Hogwarts Castle fell asleep. In the girls' dormitory at Hogwarts, there was a person who was tossing and turning and couldn't sleep. Another girl in the dormitory was woken up by the sound. After identifying her location, she had no choice but to pull the quilt over her head and continue to sleep. Since her mother was kidnapped, Ginny would make a little noise every night because of nightmares, and her roommates were used to it. Tonight, however, Ginny was tossing and turning like a pancake, not because she had just had a nightmare, but because she was worrying about something else. The Harry trio was at it again, and the incident they planned this time was enough to make everyone involved jump up and want to hit someone. Due to the failure of the rescue of Mrs. Weasley last time, Ron decided to leave Hogwarts quietly to find clues by himself. His plan was seen through by the other party when he borrowed the invisibility cloak from Harry, and then the two who had the same idea hit it off later. When Hermione accidentally learned of the matter when the two were plotting, Hermione's persuasion was ineffective, so she could only join them. When the Harry trio was plotting, they decided not to bring Zhang into this matter. In this regard, Zhang can still grasp the principle, and Ginny again took on the role of reporting their actions to the professors afterwards. At this time, Harry's trio had the Marauder's map in one hand and the invisibility cloak in the other. After avoiding the patrolling Filch, they arrived at the Room of Requirement and the secret passage leading to the Pig's Head Bar without any danger. The three of Harry each held a lighted candle as a lighting tool. Looking at the bottomless secret passage, waves of fear rose in their hearts. "Are you guys determined to really do this?" Hermione asked Harry and Ron. Harry and Ron looked at each other, then nodded solemnly. "From the time we entered the secret passage, there's no turning back," Hermione said. "We may succeed, but we may die outside. I'm ready. Let's go." After Harry and Ron finished speaking, they turned and walked into the secret passage together. Hermione watched the backs of the two of them disappear into the secret passage, sighed, then raised the candle and followed. Chapter 578 Negative points. It was another deadly cold morning, and the person who was sealed under the blanket couldn't break free from it. Zhang Su was busy in Hogsmeade last night until almost 2 o'clock in the morning before returning to the dormitory, and then fell asleep as soon as he got into bed from exhaustion. He is now thinking about whether to sleep over breakfast time in bed, and just use a can of 8 treasure porridge for breakfast. A group of people who worked hard to make money arrived in England one after another on the day they received the news, and then rushed to Hogsmeade immediately. This group of people included Zhang's family members. Seeing a large group of relatives such as grandparents, parents, cousins, etc. who came here under the banner of "Come to the UK to make money, travel by the way, and spend a British Christmas with you if you have time," someone Zhang has an urge to OTZ on the spot. When he saw the draft plan that his family had urgently prepared on the plane later, Zhang didn't have the energy to complain. Basilisk series canned food, basilisk steak and other specialties that only Zhangjia sells in the world are good. They can be regarded as British export and reprocessing products for domestic sales. The question is, what is the pattern on the package of the G pill produced by a certain umbrella company that implies that a red-haired family has 7 children in a litter? Are you afraid they will trouble our family? You say it is because the G is the 7th letter in English, the row of 7 is designed according to the Gord doll. Well, I just believe it. And that cousin who sells safety pants, what do you mean by anti-fuchsia printed on your package? Not to mention the family affairs, other people who came to make money put the hastily made proposals into the hands of Zhang Su, a half-local. Zio Zhang, help uncle to see what needs to be changed, please. Wait until the uncle makes money, and the red envelope is big. Then a small red envelope appeared in someone Zhang's pocket. However, these lucrative private jobs soon fell into the hands of Fu Rong. After all, she is a serious foreigner. And Zhang Su was called to work in the preparatory team that had no money. Finally, the strong-willed Zhang crawled out of the bed on time, washed up and left the dormitory. On the way, he met the students from the Eagle Academy who came out of the common room, and they walked towards the cafeteria together, talking and laughing. When everyone came to the foyer, they found that the school's hourglass was full of chattering students. When Zhang Su and the others squeezed in front of the hourglass, they were stunned by the scene in front of them. "Luna, pinch me, I feel like I haven't woken up," Zhang Su said to Luna beside him. However, before Luna could make a move, Anthony Goldstein, Terry Butte, and Michael Kona standing behind her stretched out their hands at the same time, and helped Luna complete the task with, percent enthusiasm and strength. What's going on? Zhangsu looked at the hourglass of the Lion Academy's house score in surprise and said, is this the legendary negative score deducted? I remember that Gryffindor still had almost, points yesterday. In the hourglass of the Lion Court, the lower part of the hourglass representing the score is empty, and all the red gemstones symbolizing the score have returned to the upper part of the hourglass, and all the red gemstones in the upper part of the hourglass floated up and gathered at the top at this time. If the Lion House has extra points, the gems will not fall under the hourglass, but will fall to the bottom of the upper part when the negative points are emptied. The gems will fall under the hourglass when there are bonus points. In Hogwarts, except for the occasional negative marks in the first 1 or 2 classes on the first day of school, it is almost impossible to have such marks at other times, so this is the first time the students have seen it in such a situation. Does anyone know what's going on? Zhangsu asked the people around him. As a result, none of the people around knew what was going on. However, various speculations are still emerging. Luna said that some students in the Lion Academy tried to rebel against a principal. Some students wondered if someone in the Lion Academy killed someone. Some students said that someone in the Lion Academy did too much to a certain cat. However, the last guess was denied by Zhangsu, and points will not be deducted for that kind of thing. You don't know what's going on either? Anthony asked Zhangsu curiously. Didn't you hear anything yesterday? How would I know? Zhangsu replied, I'm so busy that I don't have enough time to sleep. At this time, Zhangsu saw an acquaintance from the Lion House crowding beside him, so he asked, Leifu, do you know what's going on? Did Neville eat all the herbs in the greenhouse? I'm not you. Neville said, who was preparing to have breakfast with Leif in his hands. I don't even know what's going on now. Of course you don't know if you're so stupid. I'm asking the smart Leifu. Zhangsu said. In Neville's hand, the humane Leif turned around directly and gave Zhangsu a back. Did something happen to your Gryffindors last night? Zhangsu asked Neville this time. Did you find anything strange this morning? Why don't you even know? Aren't you very well informed? Neville also asked. I don't have time to go to Lingtong now, and you know what I'm busy with recently. Zhangsu shrugged helplessly. If there's a difference, Neville thought for a while, then only Harry and Ron stayed in the school infirmary last night because of a bad cold. Could it be that the two of them did something serious in the school infirmary last night? Anthony interjected. The two of them were not the only ones staying in the school infirmary last night. Neville replied angrily. There must be no one other than Gryffindor, Terry said. It seems that they really went too far, Michael said. Don't talk nonsense, it's not right to insult people's innocence out of thin air. Neville said with a cold face. A few of them walked towards the canteen while talking, and soon came to the entrance of the canteen. At this time, a piece of parchment suddenly appeared on the bulletin board at the entrance of the cafeteria. A few students passing by and standing next to the bulletin board were stunned after seeing the contents of the parchment clearly. Seeing this, Zhangsu and the others quickened their pace and rushed over. When they saw the contents on the parchment, they were also dumbfounded. Ouch! Zhangsu stretched out his hand to pinch Luna's weak hand. What are you doing? You are not dreaming now. Luna said to Zhangsu. After releasing Luna, Zhangsu took out his wand, and savagely poked Neville's ribs with the tip of the side facing the enemy. Wow! Neville, who was in a daze, was suddenly hit hard, and jumped up in pain. After Neville settled down, Zhangsu poked Leifu lightly with his wand, and said to it, Leifu, your Neville is promising, and he has become the chairman of the student union. Chapter 579 Wrong Route. Throughout the breakfast time, the students in the cafeteria discussed in low voices the latest announcement on the bulletin board. Among them, the students of the Lion Academy and the Snake Academy were the most discussed, because this incident directly affected their two academies. There are 3 announcements this morning. The first is 2 weeks of solitary confinement for Harry Potter, Hermione Granger, and Ron Weasley, and 3 days for Ginny Weasley. The second was the removal of Harry Potter and Hermione Granger as head of the student council, and the removal of Ron Weasley as Gryffindor's 7th-year prefect. The third is that Neville Longbottom and Daphne Greengrass will serve as the new president of the student council, and Seamus Finnegan will serve as the new Gryffindor 7th-year prefect. The Snake Academy was naturally celebrating the birth of a student council president in their college. They even thought that they would be discriminated against due to reasons outside the school this year, But such a thing did not happen. For the first time, winning Gryffindor in the Quidditch competition in recent years, and also getting a student council president, the two joys overlapped each other, and this double joy brought more and more joy. Although some people feel a little dissatisfied with giving such an important position to Slytherin under the current situation, Zhang knows that Daphne Greengrass and her sister. He has already obeyed Professor McGonagall. As long as Professor McGonagall sticks to his decision, there is really no one in the school who can object to this appointment. There was no problem with Neville. Ever since the Plants vs. Death Eaters fight at the beginning of school, Neville, who was in charge of this part of the work, kept turning up his word of mouth. As long as Zhang does not stand up and fight with him, he is the best choice in the case of Harry and Ron overturning, and now Neville is starting to look handsome. It's not a problem for Seamus to be the prefect. After all, the Lion Academy has promised not to use explosive demon Seamus Finnegan first in school fights. As for the 4 people who were punished, Zhang soon knew something about it. They have been locked up for so long because of the combined punishment of 2 crimes. The last time I used the time turner for such a waste of time, in the end it was Harry who played the family card, which made Professor McGonagall soft-hearted. In addition, this matter could not be exposed, so McGonagall put the punishment on hold for now, and made mistakes in the future. Then we will be punished together. Therefore, Zhang Su has been cautious during this time. Whenever he goes out, he must ask for leave. Even if he returns late, he will not spend the night outside. He is afraid that he will be unlucky if Professor McGonagall falls into the hands of him. The details of what Harry and the others committed this time are still unknown to Zhang Su, but he can guess their crime this time from the darkened faces of Professor McGonagall, Lupin, and Black on the professor's bench, as well as the recent events. It's a big deal. Today's first class is Charms class. Before class, Zhang Su asked Professor Flitwick for news, and Professor Flitwick briefly told him what happened early this morning. After listening to Professor Flitwick's narration, Zhang Su took out a bit of pepper powder in front of the professor and took a sip, then sneezed a few times. "Professor, I have a cold and I want to take a leave of absence to rest. I want to be quiet. Go ahead and pay attention to your body." Degree. Anthony, who was sitting behind the desk in the front row, and the others held up signs to rate the two's flamboyant acting skills. After leaving the classroom, Zhang Su came to Dumbledore's tomb, sitting cross-legged on the snow, deeply reflecting on the incident of Harry's trio walking alone. "You skipped class." Grindelwald appeared behind Zhang Su, and said in a joking tone, "If I arrest you now, how many points will your college be deducted?" "I'm on leave." Zhang Su replied. "Are you taking a leave of absence to come here to cool off for a while, or to accompany me, the old man?" Grindelwald asked. "I suddenly discovered today that I disagree with Dumbledore on some matters in principle," Zhang Su said. "Interesting," Grindelwald said. "Your Excellency, do you say that history in the wizarding world is made by heroic wizards like Dumbledore and you, or by ordinary people?" "Created by wizards," Zhang Su asked. The incident of Harry walking alone in the early hours of this morning made Zhang Su discover the differences between him and Dumbledore in the Harry Potter development plan. On the goal of beheading Voldemort, Zhang Su and Dumbledore are consistent, but in terms of the guiding ideology of specific operations, Dumbledore taught Harry individual heroism, while Zhang Su instilled collective heroism in Harry. It is difficult to say who is right and who is wrong when it comes to the line. We can only look at the positions of both parties. From Dumbledore's point of view, his ultimate goal is to just kill Voldemort and leave the rest alone. However, the biggest problem with this route is that the error tolerance rate is extremely low. If Harry made a mistake while acting alone, he would probably lose his life when he was isolated and helpless. At that time, Voldemort will have no scruples, and the morale of both sides will ebb and flow. The situation will continue to deteriorate. It is estimated that there is no way to keep the pots and pans in the British wizarding world. Under the current situation, Zhang Su's position must follow the state. Otherwise, based on his current situation, to put it bluntly, he has made money and has a wife, and to put it more elegantly, he has a double harvest of career and love. He has no regrets and can pat his ass back. It has nothing to do with him how the situation in England develops after he left. When his Dumbledore called him back then, if Dumbledore left, he would leave and no one else could say anything. The current position of the country is that the British Magical Society can be weakened, but not corrupted. When the magic world is exposed next, it is better to have a still active and powerful British Magic Society in the West to withstand the pressure of the whole world than to stand alone in the East. After all, the current UK is different from the European continent, which is still a backwater. because there is a shit-stirring stick named Voldemort here. He has muddied this backwater in the UK, and it will be difficult not to expose it later unless someone Zhang can now persuade the big guy in front of him to come back out of the rivers and lakes. Europe will drag it if he can. Therefore, when Zhang Su educated Harry Potter, he chose the route of collective heroism with a high fault tolerance rate. This collective does not refer to the collective in the narrow sense of the Harry trio, but includes Hogwarts, the Northern Ministry of Magic and all wizards who fought against Voldemort, as well as the British government. With the support of these forces, Harry can avoid failure to the greatest extent. Even after one or several failures, he can still run away in order to make a comeback, instead of being locked in the basement and waiting for a miracle to happen. And as long as Harry's banner does not fall, Voldemort's actions will inevitably be contained. Coupled with the morale, the situation in Britain will not collapse and get out of hand. Under the influence of Zhang Su, Harry also chose to believe in the power of the collective at the beginning, but after experiencing a failure, Harry finally did not choose to believe in the Ministry of Magic and the British government again, but chose what he believed in most in his heart, which was his own power. Before Grindelwald came over just now, Zhang Su had already figured out why his route failed, because he made a dogmatic error in this respect and failed to objectively analyze the influence of the environment on a person. When Harry entered the wizarding world, the stories he heard always emphasized the power of Dumbledore and Voldemort, as if the entire history was written by them. And when Dumbledore was educating Harry, he instilled in him since he was a child that you are Voldemort's nemesis, you are awesome, and you are the one who killed Voldemort. Therefore, Harry had a kind of idea in his heart, thinking that the power that Voldemort possesses only lies in himself, and only he can do the work of destroying Voldemort. As long as he kills Voldemort, the next thing will go smoothly. And Voldemort's minions are vulnerable. It is precisely because of this fanciful self-confidence that Harry chose to act recklessly when faced with difficulties. As for correcting Harry's thinking, Zhang Su had already given up. For Harry at this age, he wouldn't have a long memory if he didn't let him suffer. Grindelwald, who was standing not far from Zhang Su, actually laughed out loud after hearing Zhang Su's question. When he and I were young, we both thought we were the most outstanding wizards in the world. We could lead the world and change the world. Grindelwald looked at Dumbledore's tomb and said, but, later, we found that we were just a few steps faster than the people behind us. Even if there is no me on this road, someone will stand up. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 580. Every month has such a day. The conversation between Zhang Su and Grindelwald lasted until lunchtime. After saying goodbye to the boss, he returned to the castle. Before dealing with Harry's trio, Zhang Su still had one very important thing to do. In Hogwarts, there is such a day every month that the professors of the whole school will gather in the cafeteria to have lunch at lunchtime. When the lunchtime is over, these professors will leave the cafeteria as quickly as possible. Disappeared. Experienced students know that this day is the day when Hogwarts professors pay their salaries. Now the income of professors is divided into two parts. One part is the basic salary, and the other part is various allowances among them. The basic salary is paid on the last Friday of each month, and the allowance is paid twice in a school year, once in the first half of Christmas Eve, that is, December 12th, and once on the day before the end of term dinner of this school year. And today is the day when Hogwarts pays salaries and allowances, so Professor Flitwick, who is in a good mood, will agree to Zhang's use of inferior excuses to ask for a leave. Although Mr. Zhang asked for leave in the morning, he would not ask for leave when he was getting paid. Gold in the faculty lounge, the professors gathered together, and even Hagrid, who rarely came here, sat on the chair specially prepared for him. In the corner there were a lot of money bags beside Professor McGonagall, and the professors took their own money bags from her in alphabetical order. The professors were all waiting for their turn, and Zhang was the most relaxed, because he was the last one to come on stage to receive the money. Since there was a lot of money distributed today, all the professors present except Hagrid cast a levitation charm on the money bag when they took it. In fact, Hogwarts can use Gringotts relevance bills when distributing money, but this proposal has not been proposed for hundreds of years, perhaps because wizards also have a sense of accomplishment when counting money. Zhang Su rubbed Scarlet, who was sitting next to him counting the money, with his shoulder, and said, I have to take a leave of absence from the afternoon class. Scarlet put 10 stacks of gold coins on the table to count the money, and said without turning his head, "If you have something to do, you can leave now, and I'll take your share for you. Is it a good thing to do to the end, and use it up for me by the way, this is normal. Degree Cyrillic letter D degree, normal ghost. Why, you are in a hurry to hand in your salary as soon as you get paid. If you want to hand it in, your share is indispensable." After Zhang Su took his money bag from Professor McGonagall, he asked Professor McGonagall, "Professor, how do you think about the proposal in the letter the day before yesterday?" Professor McGonagall looked at Zhang Su and said, "I approve the first proposal, but I still need to think about the second one, and I will give you an answer tomorrow." Zhang Su's eyes lit up when he heard the words, and then he took out a leaflet and handed it to Professor McGonagall, saying, "Thank you very much, we look forward to your visit on the weekend. I have greeted them, whether you will get a, percent discount on everything you buy." The last sentence Zhang Su said to Professor McGonagall was through voice transmission, because the discount for the principal is, percent off, the dean is, percent off, and other professors are, percent off discount. Everyone knows what's going on, but it's embarrassing to say it out loud. After distributing a round of leaflets to the professors who had just received their salaries while the iron was hot, Zhang Su returned to the seat just now and sat down, then handed a leaflet to Scarlet. Scarlet took the leaflet and looked at it, and suddenly felt overwhelmed by the thunder. "What the hell are you doing?" Scarlet looked at Zhang Su. "Are you going to hold a New Year's fair in Hogsmeade?" Zhang Su said helplessly, "That's what those guys think. At the beginning, my plan was to contact the tenants of those empty shops, but many of them refused to rent to us, so they decided to start a new one. Set up a temporary store next to Maud." "So you've been working on this for the last few nights?" Scarlet asked. "Yes," Zhang Su replied, "it will open in 3 days. The materials for the venue are directly rented from London, and the goods brought in by air freighter are unloaded at the stand in Edinburgh. All these have to be transported by rail to Hogsmeade. The trains to Hogsmeade have hardly stopped in the past 2 days, and I was busy at the train station last night until almost 2 o'clock before returning. By the way, I have something to tell you," Scarlet said after remembering something. "After the Christmas vacation, I have a teaching assistant here to assist me. When she is familiar with the work, next school year the seat was given to her. This matter has been passed by McGonagall." "Who is it?" Zhang Su asked curiously. "You will know when the time comes, but there are some things that need your help," Scarlet said. "By the way, there is one more thing," Scarlet continued. "When you go to Hogsmeade tonight, you must be mentally prepared." Zhang Su was confused. What's going to happen tonight? He knew that Scarlet had his own information channel, and sometimes he could learn some information that was difficult for him to obtain. This matter can be big or small, it depends on how you handle it. After Scarlet finished speaking, he put all the gold coins counted on the table into his handbag, and let Zhang Su ask no matter what. In a blink of an eye, it was time to prepare for the afternoon class, and the professors who were waiting for the next class left the faculty lounge and went to the classroom with smiles on their faces. And the senior students in the castle are imparting experience to the younger students. Since I just received the money at noon today, the professors were in a good mood in the afternoon, so if some students perform well later, the professors will add a little more college points than usual. If the students' mistakes in class are not too serious, the professors will not deduct points, but just let it go after a few sentences. The students in the lower grades are taught humbly, and no one will let go of such a good opportunity. When the students were all entering the classroom to prepare for class, Zhang Su walked through a long unmanned corridor and came to an ancient gate. There are some simple patterns carved on the wooden door, and thick iron bars are wrapped around the wooden door, and the gaps and iron bars of these patterns have been covered with dust, which makes people know that this wooden door it has not been opened for years. Zhang Su pushed open the door with all his strength, and because it hadn't been opened for many years, the door hinge made a piercing scream. Behind the gate is a staircase leading underground. Chapter 581 The Punishment in the Dungeon. The history of the Hogwarts Castle dungeon dates back to when the castle was built. Since Dumbledore became the headmaster, the castle dungeon has been basically abandoned. Only Filch would arrange for the house elf to come and clean the place occasionally, and his greatest wish was to lock up disobedient students here before retiring. Today, Filch's wish finally came true when Zhang Su was halfway down the stairs. He could hear Filch's loud laughter. "Okay, Filch, You're smiling so happily. I thought Mrs. Pants had agreed to your marriage proposal. Zhang Su's words made Filch's laughter stop abruptly, and then this guy was actually shy. She has already agreed, Filch said with some coyness. Zhang Su congratulated, and then immediately found an excuse to let Filch, who had completely ruined his character, leave quickly. Then Zhang Su handed a piece of parchment to Moody, who was sitting beside him. After carefully reading the words written by Professor McGonagall on the parchment several times with his 2 eyes, Moody said, "I'm waiting outside the gate." Then he stood up and left. After Moody and Filch left the dungeon, Zhang Su pulled the chair that Moody was sitting on just now, threw a cooling spell on the chair and sat on it. There's only one corridor leading to the bottom of the dungeon, and the cells are arranged on both sides of the corridor. Each cell is not big, only about 2 meters in length and width. If Yao is inside, he can only lie down on the diagonal. However, the facilities in the cell have obviously improved now. Although Professor McGonagall was furious, he still provided Harry and Ginny with a bed in the cell and a set of desks and chairs for them to copy the school rules and stationary candles. In the aisle of the dungeon, only the candlesticks on the doorways of the first 2 rows of rooms were lit with candles, and the faint candle light could not reach the end of the aisle. Zhang Su, who was sitting at the end of the entrance, was staring at the dark and deep depths of the dungeon. The feeling of the abyss. Harry and Ron were locked in the 2 cells on the left, and Ginny and Hermione were locked opposite them. After Moody left, Harry put down the quill in his hand, just about to say something to Zhang Su. Unexpectedly, Zhang Su waved to him and said, "You are busy with your work, don't pay attention to me." Harry shook off his sore hand, then picked up the quill and continued to fight against the school rules. According to Professor McGonagall's order, they must copy the school rules every day during the confinement days, and they can only eat after copying. So in the silent dungeon, in addition to the rustling sound of the quill rubbing against a parchment, there was also the grunting sound from the stomach from time to time. More than after Zhang Su shouted into the air, Dobby wearing a vest appeared in front of him. "Mr. Zhang, what can Dobby do for you?" Zhang Su asked. "If Harry wants you to take him out, no." Dobby suddenly shouted loudly. McGonagall and Dobby said that Mr. Potter is going to sneak out to find the Dark Lord today, and Dobby won't allow this to happen. In the dungeon surrounded by stones, Dobby's voice was louder than ever. Zhang Su glanced at Harry's cell, and found that he stopped with a dead face. It seemed that he had thought about this possibility. Then Zhang Su gave Dobby a few words in a low voice, and Dobby left. A few minutes later, Dobby came back with a couple of house elves and a whole bunch of things. A barbecue grill with a strong charcoal fire, a barbecue skewer, a plate of mutton and corresponding seasonings, plus a fat chicken with a round face in a cage. The air in the dungeon is very fresh, which means that the ventilation here is well done, so Zhang is not afraid of grilling here and ushering in the finale ahead of schedule, and he also took precautionary measures. He imitated the practice of miners in the past who brought birds to the bottom of the mine to detect poisonous and harmful gases, and used a round-faced fat chicken as a detector. Zhang Su was very angry today, but he couldn't vent his anger in a rude way. But this is not a problem for him. After learning that the 4 of them have not eaten until now, he has a lot of ways to torture these 4 guys. Degree, fire wood on the charcoal fire, a string of roasted fat sheep is sizzling with oil, and a handful of cumin powder sprinkled on top. The gray wolf will be silent when it smells it, and the red wolf will cry when it smells it, and immediately fills every corner of the dungeon. Zhang Su turned a deaf ear to the hungry grunts in the dungeon, and muttered to himself while turning the mutton skewers upside down. Young people nowadays, their wings are so hard that they can fly by themselves. Oh, you are fearless lions, not us. It should be said that your claws are hardened, and you dare to hunt by yourself. You haven't seen the animal world, have you? On the African savanna, even the wildebeest, which is the lion's food, sometimes kicks the lion's mandible. By Peeves, let him open the windows and doors of the entire castle, and let a large number of students in the castle catch a cold. Then eat Fred and George's skipping candy, pretend to have a bad cold and live in the school doctor's office. Then take me confirm whether the secret passage can be passed through, so as to decide which secret passage to go out. Hiss, it's a little hot. If Professor McGonagall hadn't seen the clue early on, Peeves wouldn't be the guy who would play a prank and hide, and it happened that only the 3 of you are seriously ill among all the students, and she wouldn't let Nick put his head in the school infirmary watching you from the corner. It's getting cold, you really are plotting something. Well, today's mutton is so tender, in fact, she knew you as soon as you entered the secret passage, and then she was waiting for you to come out at the Pig's Head bar. The best kebab is always the next one. If she hadn't been prepared, maybe she really let you run out. Do you know how much trouble you have caused everyone? Not to mention the textbooks that were frozen to death and the medicine consumed by the school doctor's office. You can't escape this money. Do you know how much damage will be caused to the whole of Britain and even the whole world if you make a mistake? Although my point is that history is not determined by a few people, I do not deny that the actions of a few people will make history usher in light earlier, and it will also make history sink into longer darkness. Do you think you're the only ones trying to save Mrs. Weasley? Do you know how much the Minister of Magic sacrificed for this? Moreover, not only the Aurors of the Ministry of Magic and the British government, but also your Aunt Adams, the bald old man and one of Charlie's leaders, they are all working hard on this matter where you can't see it. Hey, I really thought that I was invincible after I made some achievements. There is no source of information, and no logistical support. What do you use to find Mrs. Weasley? With that bottle of Polyjuice potion on you, Hermione, you thought that if you were captured by Death Eaters after you became Harry, you would be sure that you would be locked up with Mrs. Weasley, and then you would have the opportunity to send a signal outside. Maybe the Death Eaters will use you as bait to fish. While eating the delicious mutton skewers, Zhang Su mentally bombarded the 4 people in the dungeon. And Harry, the 4 of them had been scolded by Professor McGonagall, Lupin, Black, and Moody long ago, and they couldn't refute Zhang Su's words, so they could only listen quietly. However, what Zhang Su went too far was that while attacking them mentally, he also attacked them physically. People had to breathe, but the aroma of roasted lamb entered their nostrils as soon as they breathed in, making their stomachs more and more hungry. The stomach of rebellion and Zhang Su's mental attack slowed down their speed of copying the school rules. After Zhang Su's torment, the time for the few of them to eat had to be greatly delayed. At this time, there were more sobs from the young girl in the cell. Mr. Zhang tossed about in the dungeon for a long time. It was not until 10 minutes before today's Muggle Studies class that he finished all the kebabs, told the house elf to pack up his things, clapped his hands and left. When leaving the dungeon, Zhang Su said to Moody, who was standing outside the dungeon watching the whole process with his magic eyes, "You better go down and take a look, otherwise I'm afraid they will eat the parchment as dinner." Chapter 582. The girl in number 039's mother came to her door. Thick snow covered the snow-capped mountains to the north, the roofs of every building in Hogsmeade, and the clearings around the village. The thick clouds in the sky have disappeared without a trace, and the setting sun spreads over the land, creating a scene of Yuan-Chi Orange Cat. On a large open space in the direction of Hogwarts, a huge exhibition tent has appeared at this moment. People are constantly coming in and out at the door of the tent. They are either carrying goods, or holding stacks of posters to paste in designated places. Not far away, the residents of Hogsmeade and the off-duty Ministry of Magic staff gathered together, sometimes pointing at the exhibition tent and the stage being built in front of the tent door, and sometimes expressing curiosity with a little excitement. The tone is discussing the various posters on the wall. In the exhibition tent with expanded space, there are several areas of different sizes that sell different types of products, and in these areas, they are divided into booths of different specifications. In the deepest part of the tent is the office area for the staff. In a cubicle in the office area, Zhang Su was sitting behind a desk writing hard. After a long time, he put down the pen in his hand, picked up the manuscript paper on the table to check it, and then stretched out his hand to the side. At this time, a staff member from the embassy came to support and handed a programmable calculator to Zhang Su, and then Zhang Su began to input the program on the manuscript paper into the calculator. Everyone who comes to the UK to do business has a very serious problem, and that is the currency conversion problem on the side of the British wizarding world. The currency here is the galleon of gold, the sickle of silver, and the nat of bronze, and 1 galleon is 17 sickles and 493 nats, and 1 sickles is 29 nats. This can make businessmen who are used to decimal rounded cents hang themselves. In the past, everyone was in the wholesale business, and for the convenience of calculation, everyone just erased a fraction, but now there are also retail outlets, so it's not easy to wipe off the odds. Therefore, the easiest way everyone thought of was to urgently buy a batch of programmable calculators back, and then let Zhang Su write a program to calculate gallon, psych, and nat, and finally input the program into the calculator and send it to all the merchants use. After a long time, Zhang Su finished inputting the calculation program, found a random set of numbers and tested it, but an error occurred. When the setting sun outside was hidden behind the high mountains, and the sky full of stars appeared in the night, He finally tossed a calculation program. I haven't used the basic language for a long time, and it turned out to be overturned today. After writing the latest version of the program on paper and handing it to the staff, Zhang Su went to the cafeteria to order a bowl of noodles, and the follow-up work was completed by the relevant staff, and he would come to help if there was an emergency. After finishing his Muggle Studies class this afternoon, he rushed over to fiddle with the calculator without dinner. Fortunately, he had eaten enough roast lamb in the dungeon before, otherwise he must be very hungry now. After eating the noodles, Zhang Su came to another office. Mr. Zhao was also sitting behind the desk, but he was thinking hard with a pen. Seeing Zhang Su coming in, Mr. Zhao put down the pen in his hand, rubbed his brows and said, "I've eaten." Zhang Su nodded, and replied, "I'm done with work, and I've eaten too. Do you have any tasks for me later? Our side will be gone in a while." Mr. Zhao said while pouring tea for himself, "But someone from Scrimgeour sent a message, go there if you have time. Then I'll be free later." Zhang Su found a chair and sat down. "I saw you had such a headache just now. What important national affairs are you thinking about?" "Write a report." Mr. Zhao put down the empty teacup. "I told them that Brother Xiangai once said that certain laws of material production are also applicable to spiritual production. If it is overdone, spiritual production will also be damaged, or even more damage. But they kept urging me to report it. But what he said next was that some manuscripts have to be rushed." Zhang Zujiang said with spirit, "You can still quote scriptures when you procrastinate. Don't you old man often boast that you don't write drafts during the palace examination, and your pen is like a dragon? Is it done overnight? That's why Shuping became the no scholar," said a Qing scholar. After learning that he had no mission tonight, Zhang Su stopped bothering the boss, and left after bragging for a while. Thinking about it, after a few days of running in, the cooperation between the wizards of the two countries has been on the right track, and he is no longer needed to communicate and coordinate in the middle. For a while, Zhang was actually idle. Moreover, Mr. Delacour, who came to the UK on behalf of the French Ministry of Magic and wanted to make money from everyone, returned to France today after talking about the business, so Fleur decided to go home with her father by the way. After running back to Europe for so long, no, I can't justify going home. Zhang Su, who had nothing to do, didn't want to go to Hogwarts to correct the students' homework so early, so he came to the booth of his own industry to help. It's just that when he was helping to assemble the shelves, he found that his family looked at him strangely. Zhang Su suddenly remembered that someone told him at noon today that something was going to happen tonight, so he couldn't help but become vigilant. It was 10:30, the work of the day was over, and Zhang Su followed his family back to the settlement in Hogsmeade for supper. The original property of the Lestrange family here was later obtained by Zhang through some means, and then he used this property and Neville's relatives to replace the Zhang family building on the north side. This time a large group of people came to the house, so Zhang Su contacted his relatives through Neville and rented this small building for the family to stay. When the family returned to the small building, Zhang Su found that there was no supper. Instead, the family sat neatly in the living room, and then looked at their own house, which was boiling water to prepare tea. There were 3 meetings momentum. Zhang Su, who didn't understand the situation, decided not to change, and entered the obedient cub mode on the day of the parents' meeting. But those who should come will still come, and the first to speak is Zhang Su's grandfather. Zhang Feng took a sip of the tea guanyin that Zhang Su handed over, moistened his throat and said, "Zia Ojiajia, I have something to ask you." Zhang Su was startled. Grandpa's tone was the same as when he came back from the parents' meeting before. "What's the matter, Grandpa?" The well-behaved Zhang Xiaoanzi asked. "What's the matter with those 2 little Indian girls?" Zhang Feng asked. "The mother of the family has come to the door. I heard that you have prepared a large amount of pocket money for the family." Zhang Su's face immediately changed when he heard this. Chapter 583 Infiltrate. So, this is an action to fight for the freedom of individuality and marriage. This is a struggle against feudal forces and feudal arranged marriages. In the end, justice and freedom will win the final victory. After telling the story of the Paddle sisters, Zhang Su concluded awe-inspiringly. "If you want to say whether you have any thoughts about the Paddle sisters, someone." Zhang can pat his chest and say no firmly. Not only did Zhang have no idea, but he usually took the initiative to avoid suspicion and keep a certain distance from them. Except for the occasional play in Hogsmeade to confuse the Paddle family, in the past, the 2 sisters would not even see Zhang in their free time. Disaster. However, Mrs. Paddle was very enthusiastic about this matter. She often wrote letters expressly implying that someone Zhang could get on the bus first and then make up for the fare. It's just that whenever the owl brings Mrs. Paddle's letter and some kind of small gift of oil in a bottle, someone Zhang wants to grab Mrs. Paddle's skirt and shout, "You look down on me, Mrs. Zhang, right? And you brought this gift here for kicks, or I'll let you try the power of my big umbrellas. T-pill and G-pill and even mother-daughter sandwiches won't be able to save you." Mrs. Paddle's actions naturally have her own considerations. With the passage of time, more and more clues can prove that the forces that Zhang can influence are terrifying. It's just that he has been making a lot of money silently, so except for those who are interested in digging and analyzing, many people are not aware of this. Simply speaking, Zhang's influence in the UK is not low. On the night when the daughters were picked up, Mrs. Paddle saw how the son of the Southern Ministry of Magic's family obeyed his wards and the sixth son of the upstart Weasley family of the Northern Ministry of Magic gave up trouble with Malfoy just because of his one look. As a veteran in the social arena, Mrs. Paddle immediately found the information she needed. Instead of selling the two sisters to the Malfoy family and the Weasley family respectively, she sold the two daughters together. Gave it to someone Zhang. If they can hug this panda thigh, it means that the Paddle family has gained a vast new world, becoming the first family in the Indian magic world to resume normal communication with the east of the Himalayas after the 60s. Zhang Su's grandparents, father, mother, and cousin are not idiots. They are all geniuses who have been fighting in their respective fields for many years. Once Zhang Su told the story of the twin sisters, they guessed Mrs. Paddle's thoughts. After Zhang Su finished speaking, Zhang Feng, who is the presiding judge of today's 3 sessions, asked, "Then after this Christmas holiday, they will go back with us?" "No, their affairs are arranged by the state." Zhang Su pointed to the ceiling and replied, pretending to be profound, "Some other things are involved in this." Dividing line. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. A figure in a black robe strolled on a street in London. There were no figures or lights on the street. The bright moonlight shines on the ground, and a red telephone booth stands on the side of the road, which is very conspicuous in the moonlight. With a ding, the elevator reached its destination. After the visitor came out of the elevator, he found that it was not uncommon to see wizards wearing hoods like himself in the hall, so he gave up his plan to take off the hoods. Perhaps because they are used to acting under the cover of night, in the Ministry of Magic, which is dominated by dark wizards, it is still full of vitality in the middle of the night. Visitors come to the elevator lobby, walk straight into an empty elevator, close the door before everyone else comes up, and finally press the button to go to the basement. The basement floor is where the office of the Minister of Magic is located, but it seems that the defense here is very lax along the way. At this moment, the door of the Minister's office opens suddenly, and the Minister of Magic, Lucius Malfoy, appeared behind the door. He seemed to be familiar with the wizard who was wearing a hood to hide his appearance. He pointed to the door with the words Minister's Office Logistics Department and said to the visitor, "Why are you here now, and where are you going to fool around? Now, go and make a pot of Blue Mountain coffee right away. I want 2 cups." The visitor was extremely shocked by the minister's appearance, because the information he received was that the minister would not appear every night, and this evening, the minister was apparently meeting important guests. There is a small kitchen in the logistics office, and the visitor who originally planned to sneak into the minister's office is carefully making coffee. After pouring the brewed coffee into the coffee pot, the visitor raises his hands in front of his eyes, revealing 2 rings worn on his left and right hands. Of the 2 rings, one contained a coma drug, and the other contained a powerful stimulant for escaping in an emergency. After the visitor selected the ring containing the drug, he added the drug inside to the coffee. When the visitor came into the minister's office with a tray of coffee pots and coffee cups, as he guessed, the minister was meeting late at night. The 2 men in the office were alert, and stopped talking as soon as the visitor opened the door. Malfoy resented the daredevil who came in without knocking, especially when there were guests. The dark-faced old horse was thinking about how to wear a pair of small shoes for the other party tomorrow. The visitor, who lowered his head and didn't want the other party to see his face, put the tray on the desk and then turned and left, without a hint of audacity to come in without knocking on the door just now. After the visitor exited the minister's office, he returned to the room of the logistics department. However, at this time, a person with a very similar figure to himself appeared in the room, panting on a chair, and it seemed that he came here by running. 5 minutes later, the visitor adjusted the robe on his body again, and confirmed that the fight just now did not leave a trace on his body. Before arriving at the minister's office, The visitor guessed that the two people in the office should have passed out, so after confirming that no one around saw them, he pushed open the door of the office and walked in. "What's the matter?" Malfoy's face turned as dark as that of that daredevil's subordinate who barged in without being summoned by him. "Excuse me, do you still need a pot of coffee, Minister?" the visitor asked anxiously. "Come here first and take the empty jug away," Malfoy said with a sullen face. When the visitor walked to the desk and was about to pick up the coffee pot, his right hand was held down by Malfoy. The visitor was shocked, and he wanted to withdraw his hand, but Malfoy's hand grabbed his hand like an iron clamp, preventing him from moving. The next moment, the visitor's hood was lifted, revealing his face. "Don't be nervous, Mr. Johnny Ingrid," Zhang Su, who was sitting opposite Malfoy, said with a smile. "I didn't think we would meet here again. Why don't you sit down and have a cup of coffee and chat for a while?" Johnny immediately stretched out his other hand and pressed it on his body. In this situation of 1 against 2, he could only use strong stimulants to improve his strength and escape. The next second, he passed out. Chapter 584 Late Night London City, 4 Quiet Places. Johnny Ingrid is the code name of the current No. agent of MI, which is in charge of intelligence work in the wizarding world. No one knows that his original name before joining MI was Rowan Atkinson. During his years working for the British Intelligence Service, he has repeatedly made remarkable achievements, and was briefly on the throne of the British King. It's just that Mr. Ingrid now feels that he may be about to die heroically, because he was discovered while performing an infiltration mission together, and then thought he passed out because he was attacked. Our Mr. Ingrid is not afraid of death. From the moment he signed a work contract with MI, he put his own life and death aside. What makes him regret is that he failed to obtain more information during this operation, and failed to pass on the information about the ghost in Hogwarts that he saw in the office of the Minister of Magic today. Now that Johnny has woken up, he finds that he has been tightly tied up, his hands, feet and torso can't move, and his mouth is stuffed up so that he can't make a sound. Judging from the tactile sensations around him, he should be stuffed into a box that can barely hold his whole body. Dark, silent, stuffy, that's how Johnny felt right now. He didn't know how long he had been unconscious or how long he had been shoved into the box. He wasn't even sure if he was buried in the ground or if he had sunk to the bottom of the Thames. In such hopeless circumstances, the spirits of ordinary people can quickly and completely break down, sometimes more effectively than magic. However, as an excellent agent, Johnny, who has undergone rigorous, systematic, and even cruel training, will naturally not be knocked down by this difficulty. During the training camp, Johnny and other students also received similar confined space confinement training, and in this training, he performed the best among all the students and left a deep impression on the instructors. Therefore, at this moment, Johnny did not give up. He had to persevere. He believed that he could support until his teammates came to rescue him. Dividing line while Zhang Su and Lao Ma were drinking coffee in the minister's office of the Ministry of Magic, in a country house near the border between England and Scotland, thick curtains hung behind the windows to block a piece of green light from the house in. Bellatrix was alone at the moment, patrolling the outside of the house. This time the Dark Lord's actions only allowed her to follow alone. Although her job was just to watch the wind, this feeling of the master trusts me the most made her excited. Under a big tree not far from her, a police car that crashed into the tree trunk was emitting thick smoke, and the 2 policemen sitting in the front row were already thoroughly chilled. A muffled sound of boom came out of the house. Bellatrix had heard this sound many times, and she could even tell from this slight sound whether the corpse fell forward or backward. Moments later, the door of the house opened, and the reflection of the moon above Voldemort's head told Bellatrix that her master had come out of the house. Bellatrix rushed over quickly, and respectfully followed behind her master. In her fiery eyes just now, she saw a faint smile on the corner of the master's mouth. It's just that Bellatrix only had eyes for her own master, and she almost stepped on Nagini's head with the heel of her high-heeled shoes. A master, a servant, and a snake quietly disappeared into the dark night without saying a word. More than an hour later, a police car with siren on came roaring. When the police car drove near the villa, the headlights of the police car shone on the wreckage of the police car that had crashed into the tree trunk. An NBSP, the police car stopped, the front door opened, and the policeman in the passenger seat rushed towards the wreckage with a flashlight. The policeman in the driver's seat of the car picked up the walkie-talkie and reported to the headquarters that the missing police car had a serious car accident on the way. At this moment, a black figure suddenly rushed out of the night, throwing the policemen who were going to investigate the situation to the ground. The policeman who is reporting the situation to the headquarters was stunned for a moment. When he wanted to get out of the cart to see what happened, a second black figure appeared beside the open car door. On the radio station in the police station, after a scream rang out, there was no more sound. Dividing line at 3 o'clock in the morning, after finishing the work at hand, Zhang Su did not leave London, but found a place by the Thames to sit down. Just now, after he and the old horse drank the coffee that Johnny brought over, they immediately discovered that there was something wrong with the coffee. It's just that the problem is not big, so I didn't startle the snake, but waited for the other party to jump out again, to catch the turtle in the urn. As a result, after Johnny was exposed, Lao Ma asked Zhang Su with a distorted expression, "Ah, you brought the agents here." "I'm not, I haven't, don't talk nonsense." Zhang Su denied. Johnny's problem is not the problem, but the most important problem now is that the stimulant that Johnny poured into the coffee is so strong that Zhang, who is already dozing off, is now full of energy, energetic, and a feeling that even if you run back to Hogwarts, you will be fine. His own body is clear, and Zhang, who is full of energy, knows that he doesn't need to sleep tonight. If you take too many stimulants, you have to find a place to calm yourself down. However, it is not a good choice to open Washing in the Southern Ministry of Magic at this time. It is better to pretend to be a pony and rob Gringotts. And he is not like an old horse. He has a wife waiting at home. Furin went home and will not be back until tomorrow. He can't go all the way to France in the middle of the night because of this matter. He will be laughed at by his father-in-law and mother-in-law. It is not realistic to go back to Hogwarts. There will be classes tomorrow morning. If you miss class for some reason, Professor McGonagall will go crazy. Although this time is when the bars in London are closing, it is not difficult for Zhang to hook up with one or a few drunk girls. However, to hook up with such a girl, it is better to sneak into the dungeon and create Harley. Scrimgeour is also to blame for this matter. If he hadn't wanted to emulate the wisdom of World War I and come to a complete ceasefire during Christmas, so that the people of the whole country can have a stable and peaceful Christmas, Zhang would not have come to London in the middle of the night to spread the word. However, an opportunity to show his strength soon appeared in front of Zhang, who met a group of drunk alcoholics who had just come out of the bar. Drunks see a man loitering along the side of the road alone, and they come up to make trouble for him. Looking at this group of football hooligans surrounding him, asking himself with a mouthful of alcohol if he likes Anna's appearance, Zhang is very disgusted, so he ignored the fact that he bought a lot of lottery tickets for Anna's championship before the start of the 9798 season, and shouted, "Man is the champion." After a while, Mr. Zhang left while arranging his somewhat messy hairstyle, leaving behind him a drunkard lying on the ground. Clap clap. Zhang Su didn't go far, when the sound of applause sounded in the darkness. "I didn't expect to go out for a walk tonight, and I would meet Mr. Zhang showing off his supernatural power." When the visitor came out from the shadow under the tree and was now under the moonlight, Zhang, who saw the other party clearly, felt a pain in his head. Chapter 585 Ma and number 039, please stop. When Zhang Su hurried back to Hogwarts, he happened to meet students coming down from upstairs to have breakfast in the hall. The students who greeted him were not surprised that he came back from outside the castle at this time. After all, he left the castle early in the morning to do morning exercises by the lake, or went to the greenhouse to see if there were any mandrakes that lacked sleep. Things have happened a lot in the past few years. It's just that many people didn't notice that at this time Zhang looked a little stupid, as if he was thinking about something. Even when he saw Professor McGonagall and sold the leave to the professor, he only said, "I'm back," and it was over. When he saw the Paddle sisters walking down the stairs together, Zhang Su walked over and whispered beside them, "You guys come to my dormitory tonight, don't let others know." Seeing Zhang Su's back disappear into the cafeteria, the Paddle sisters couldn't help but look at each other, feeling nervous. The entire day today was uneventful, except for the fact that what happened in the second half of last night was so much information that Zhang's brain almost went down, causing him to be in a daze in math class in the morning. In the final quiz, I forgot to write my name on the paper. At noon, I was poked all over the head by the mathematics professor with his face the enemy in the teacher's lounge. Scrimgeour had already written a letter to report the negotiation with Malfoy last night, and the New Year's Market Preparatory Committee had also sent a letter, saying that he would not go to help because he had to change his homework tonight. After correcting homework, Zhang Su prepared a taric tea made with Assam black tea, milk, jaggery, cinnamon, cloves, fennel and ginger in his professor's dormitory, and filled with spicy potatoes and peas. The samosa fried dumplings, small sandwiches with cucumbers, onions and other vegetables sandwiched in white bread, and Mulu Valley cakes made with lentil flour that are crunchy to the bite. When the hour and minute hands of the clock on the wall struck, someone knocked on the door of the dormitory, and Sister Paddle walked in. Unlike during the daytime class, the Paddle sisters were clearly freshened up, and they still smelled of some kind of body wash and shampoo in the prefect's bathroom. At this time, the expressions on the faces of both of them were a little uneasy. When walking, their hands subconsciously grasped their own robes tightly. Their mothers also had this habit. Zhang Su immediately saw what the twin sisters were nervous about, and he said to them three, "There is no need to be so nervous. You are now acting as if I am going to do something to you." Then Zhang Su poured them a cup of tea and said, "Wait a minute, I'll go get something." Although he can use the flying spell to get the things he wants to bring, the current situation of the two sisters is obviously too little homework and too much thinking, coupled with the hints from their mother's letters in the past. The result is that he called them here tonight. The purpose kicked the accelerator in his mind and went wrong, so he had to leave first to let the sisters calm down, otherwise it would be embarrassing for them to do something impulsive suddenly. After seeing Zhang Su leave and enter the study, Parvati was secretly relieved. Today she received a letter from her mother, and she was a little confused by the vague content in it. As a result, the two sisters couldn't help thinking wrong. She picked up the teacup on the table, held it to her lips and pecked lightly, then her eyes lit up immediately. Seeing her sister's reaction, Padma at the side immediately thought that someone Zhang had drugged the tea. Parvati shook her head and said nothing, then motioned Padma to try the tea too. Padma took a sip from her teacup, only to have the same reaction as her sister. With the different recipes of spices in the tea, Indian tea tariq can be combined into countless flavors. Different people like different tastes. The tastes of the twin sisters have been influenced by their mothers since childhood, and they maintain the same preferences as their mothers, but now, they drink the taste of mother from Zhang Su. The two can be sure that they have never mentioned the spice recipe of this kind of Indian tea tariq to anyone, and they don't know the exact recipe, because the tea they drank since they were young was made by their mothers themselves. At this time, the two sisters' minds were on their way to and from Liazhao Wuling, and their attention was shifted to the refreshments on the table. The samosas, small sandwiches and Mulu Valley cakes on the tea table are all their favorite refreshments when they were at home. After tasting, the two sisters found that they were also the familiar mother's taste. After dawdling in the study for a while, Zhang Su came out with a pensieve and placed it on the coffee table. "I know you have a lot of questions." Zhang Su raised his hand to stop the two sisters who wanted to talk. "I met your mother in London last night. I think you should check some things for yourself." After Zhang Su finished speaking, he used his magic wand to extract a memory from his mind, and then put it into the pensieve. Here is a very Indian-style bedroom, which is very familiar to the sisters Parvati and Padma because this is their mother's bedroom in their family's manor outside London. The two sisters saw their mother sitting on the bed, her cheeks flushed, her clothes a little messy, and the bedding on the bed was as messy as if someone had fought on it. Seeing this scene, the twin sisters' cheeks also turned red. At the age of 17 or 18, they knew everything they should know, not to mention their mother's letter instructing them how to win Zhang's teaching content as soon as possible, which makes them blush and want to stop every time they read it. In the girls' dormitory, girls sometimes fight with each other. Sometimes the fighting is too much, and it is inevitable that white and flawless lilies will bloom. The two sisters who happened to meet had also seen those girls when they were in full bloom. In Zhang Su's memory world in the pensieve, the younger sister waved her hand gently in front of her elder sister's eyes, and asked her in an unbelievable tone, "Should we call him father in the future?" The elder sister didn't speak, but just looked towards the other side of the bedroom in the direction of the mother's gaze in front of her. On the other side of the bedroom, the window was opened, and the cold night wind came in from the garden, making the curtains rattle. In front of the window stood a giant panda. "Madam, please stop," the giant panda said. "If you continue like this, it won't do you any good." Chapter 586 Madam and Number 039, S Story. In some fields, Zhang is still too immature. The experienced courtesan used some tricks, and as a result, he almost overturned his car at the last moment, and by the way, he produced a pair of cheap twin daughters. If the other party is willing to spend more money, maybe Padma can be her sister. Fortunately, Johnny Ingrid's stimulant has the effect of strengthening the spirit, which weakens the effect of the aphrodisiac incense from India, allowing Zhang to maintain his sanity at the last moment when Mrs. Paddle pinned him down, and immediately became the giant panda escaped unharmed. Otherwise, this is not a problem that can be solved by kneeling on the durian skin for a day or two. The night wind blew away the incense in the bedroom, and the freezing temperature calmed down the two people inside. "I'll wait for you in the living room downstairs." Zhang the panda turned around and walked out of the bedroom after speaking. Changed back to human form, Zhang Su sat on the sofa in the living room and silently recited the Kingxin mantra several times to calm down his body and mind. A few minutes later, with a sound of footsteps, Mrs. Paddle entered the living room. The flush on her face has not subsided, but the clothes and hair on her body have been rearranged. Mrs. Paddle, who walked into the living room, half lied down on her special sofa, kicked her feet, and a pair of bright red high-heeled shoes fell on the edge of the sofa, and then shrank to the sofa with a pair of feet that could last a year. On the coffee table next to the sofa is an Indian hookah made of gold and inlaid with various gemstones. After lighting the shredded tobacco in the tobacco bowl, she picked up the cigarette holder connected to the leather tube, took a deep breath, and then exhaled a string of smoke rings in the direction of Zhang Su. Although Mrs. Petals should be about 40 years old, she may be a natural beauty, and she is well maintained. Her temperament, figure, skin quality and appearance look like she is about to enter her 30s. Is the mother of 2 children. Mrs. Paddle, who was lazily lying half on the sofa amidst the smog, was 8 parts charming and 2 parts pure, elegant and dignified with a little caress. Just as a middle-aged man is the precipitation of years and the crystallization of wisdom, what time has left on Mrs. Paddle is wisdom and grace. Although the current Zhang is frivolous because of living a new life, and because the hormones secreted by his growing body make him full of vitality, coupled with the infection of young people around him, he is full of vigor. However, in his bones, he's a middle-aged uncle who is neither greasy nor greasy. And this kind of Mrs. Paddle, whether in terms of body or spirit, is exactly what a middle-aged man like him admires and desires. Therefore, in the first round of confrontation between the two of them, Zhang was defeated and almost fell. It's just that Zhang Su, who is already on guard in his heart, not only has no fluctuations in his heart, but is thinking about what it would be like for her to dance the song "It's Cold in Winter." Half an hour later, Mrs. Paddle took her last puff of her hookah and exhaled her last smoke ring. However, she did not put the gorgeous cigarette holder back, but played with it in her hands, and at the same time told the story to herself. "I was born in a Brahmin family in Rajasthan. My family started following Mahatma Gandhi 80 years ago. My father was a member of parliament 40 years ago. However, when I was 3 years old, that person wiped out all the opposing forces in order to allow his daughter to succeed him. Since then, my home has been shattered. Because I showed my talent for magic since I was a child, and was later regarded by the family as a gift to curry favor with that family in order to make a comeback, and was sent to that person's daughter. Later, after being trained, I was packaged as the daughter of that family and sent back to Rajasthan as a tool to strengthen ties with the Paddle family. However, after I gave birth to their 2 sisters, I was unable to give birth to another child for the Paddle family. A woman who cannot bear a boy is useless. Just when our mother and daughter were about to be abandoned by the family, someone proposed to send us to the UK based on the idea of waste utilization to make benefits for the family. In order for the children not to grow up amidst leftovers, I accepted this task. In order to be able to, I will do my best to increase the right to speak in future arrangements, and I have given everything for this." That year, in order to deepen ties with other families in India, the Paddle family launched a series of marriage activities. At that time, they wanted to bring their children back to India. Later, it was Dumbledore who came forward, hoping that they would not end their studies at Hogwarts early. People in the family had to give Dumbledore a face. And all I can do is help them choose an acceptable marriage partner. I don't want them to marry a man who is more than 40 years older than me like me. Then I chose a young talent from New Delhi for them, which was the least bad choice of all the choices. As a result, he died the night you were awarded the Order of Merlin, first class. Then, you began to enter our field of vision, and the children began to use you as a shield. I know you are a good person. You are the best choice for them. Only you can help them get rid of their fate." "I see," Zhang Su said. Zhang Su reasoned clearly from Mrs. Paddle's short story. Everyone can be regarded as colleagues, but he, Zhang, has the support of the entire country behind him, and Mrs. Paddle is just a dispensable idler in the UK. If something happens to Mr. Zhang, he can run away immediately, and beside Mrs. Paddle, there are her 2 daughters. Zhang's fate can already be decided, but she has already sunk. and she can only hope that her daughter will live a better life than herself in the future. Moreover, from the other party's cryptic narration, Zhang Su still heard the bitterness behind her sunshine all these years. You don't know. Mrs. Paddle said, someone in the family already suspects that you are acting. They plan to find an opportunity to forcefully take the children back, because they have already found a new marriage partner. Apart from marriage, do you have no other way to strengthen your relationship? Zhang Su said helplessly. I have my own national conditions in India. Mrs. Paddle replied, her words revealed a lot of helplessness. Then what are your plans tonight? Zhang Su asked. I want to make a deal with you. I hope you can play tricks with the children more realistically, said Mrs. Paddle. And that's all I can give and you can accept. After Mrs. Paddle finished speaking, the body lying on the sofa moved indistinctly, and the long skirt that originally covered the ankles slid to the ground, revealing a pair of beautiful elastic legs. Then she said, I heard that the reason you are not interested in my daughters is because you like older women. Mrs. Zhang looked at Mrs. Petal with a black line, and the rumors of her affection had spread to India. I don't think this is the reason why you have to make such a sacrifice. Zhang Su replied with a straight face. He didn't think it was worth paying such a big price, and I have promised them, so you don't have to worry about me. Leave them alone. Believe it or not, that's really my reason, said Mrs. Paddle. I hope my daughters don't go the way I did. There are ghosts in the letter, Zhang Su thought, although he didn't doubt that Mrs. Paddle would benefit him for the sake of his daughters. Such a thing obviously didn't require her to make such a sacrifice. If she was really pushed by her, then she must have more demands on herself than that. At this time, Mrs. Petal saw Zhang Su sitting across from him in deep thought, so she didn't continue to speak, but changed her posture so that Zhang Su could see more things when looking at him from his perspective. After a while, Zhang Su raised his head and asked in a serious tone, Madam, are you interested in bringing your daughters to remarry? Mrs. Paddle raised her brows and said with a smile, Why, my husband passed away not long ago. When you want to marry me, so it's not like you don't have a chance, but it's not an easy thing. How about I introduce someone to you? Zhang Su said seriously. He comes from an ancient wizarding family in England. He is about the same age as you, has a decent job, owns a car and a house, and both parents died. The most important thing is that he is currently in a period of emotional trauma. At this time you can get twice the result with half the effort if you attack him. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 587. When Sister Paddle looked up from the pensieve, her face was as shocked as seeing some kitten fluttering butterflies in the garden next to Hogwarts Castle in spring. You found us a father. Parvati, who was the first to react, exclaimed. The contents of the last part of the pensieve were so shocking to them that they forgot the contents of the first part for a while. This is just an idea, and it has not yet entered the actual operation stage. Zhang Su said while drinking tea. Your mother means to listen to your opinions. As long as you do not object, she will give it a try. After all, your mother is also tired of this kind of life. If it wasn't for you, she would have been unable to support herself. We need to think about it, Padma said. It should be. Zhang Su nodded and said, Padma, you can go to Parvati to rest tonight, and I will help you explain the situation to the principals. At this time, the twin sisters had no intention of staying any longer, and left after bidding farewell to Zhang Su. Zhang Su went back to his study and wrote on a note that Padma would live with her sister in the girls' dormitory of the Lion Court tonight. It's just that Lu Ping came to Zhang Su's dormitory within 5 minutes of the paper crane flying away. As the saying goes, people are happy when they are happy, and after his wife became pregnant, the smile never disappeared from Lu Ping's face, except when he criticized Harry's troublemakers. Zhang, what did you do to these two sisters? Lu Ping looked at Zhang Su with a smirk on his face. Just now I saw on the Marauders map that they stayed with you for a long time, and then you let Padma go and Parvati's dorm. Zhang Su ignored Lu Ping's ridicule. He knew that Lu Ping cared about his students, and was worried that someone Zhang would do something terrible to his students. He said, Lu Ping, you are already a father. I'm dead, why don't you care about your good brother's lifelong event? After Zhang Su finished speaking, he took out a new cup and poured Lu Ping a cup of Tetaric that he hadn't finished just now. Lu Ping chuckled at Zhang Su. Thinking he was changing the subject and what is Black's problem, Zhang has no idea Zhang Su didn't take it seriously, and continued, now there is an opportunity in front of Black, do you think you should fight for him? The expression on Lupin's face suddenly twisted, and he tentatively said, Parvati is still Padma. How can there be such a good thing? Zhang vomited blood. It's their mother, Mrs. Paddle. Zhang Su said, although one of them is widowed in middle age, he can be regarded as dignified and virtuous, and the other can be regarded as an older single with a successful career. Now it depends on the attitude of the Paddle sisters. If the two sisters do not object, we can arrange for the two of them to meet by chance. I've even thought about the place where they will meet. When the 1997 Christmas shopping carnival opens at Hogsmeade this weekend, Mrs. Paddle and her daughters will be there. Then you will bring Blake go together and the two of you meet there, so they get to know each other naturally. Then you all went shopping together at the beginning, and then when the two of them got acquainted, you and the two sisters disappeared quietly. Blake will be a father in 10 months' time if everything goes very well. Oh wait, Lupin stretched out his hand to stop him. I don't seem to have expressed my opinion. Why did you include me? Also, why are you so proficient? How many times have you done this kind of thing? Zhang Su said while eating the snacks on the table, you are just helping to create an opportunity for them in this matter. How they develop is not up to them. Besides, is there any objection to this matter for you? Isn't it a good thing for you that your brother finds a life partner? Among you, you and James Potter have children. Don't you have the heart to look at Black alone? Is he old and alone? After all, Harry is not his own. This matter is also a good thing for Mrs. Paddle and her mother and daughter. To be honest, Mrs. Paddle's status in their family is very bad now. It is great to be able to get out of that fire pit. It's good for me, too. He's in company, and we don't have to worry about seeing Blake. Finally, don't forget what direction I am best at in divination. Lupin and Zhang Su are not polite. He and Zhang Su competed for the Indian snacks on the table, while listening to him talking about matchmaking. From the very beginning, he felt that matchmaker Zhang was right. At first glance, it was indeed a win-win situation. What made him finally agree with matchmaker Zhang was matchmaker Zhang's last sentence. Matchmaker Zhang is well known for her marriage, and Lupin himself is one of the beneficiaries. In this way, Lupin also felt that the chance of success in this matter was very high. In fact, Zhang Su had already calculated a hexagram for them, and what he got was a good hexagram. Now Zhang Bangson's success rate in calculating marriage is opposite to his success rate in calculating whether with this hexagram endorsement, he will actively promote this matter. Lupin left after agreeing to keep the matter a secret. He decided to check on Parvati early tomorrow morning. After seeing off Lupin, Zhang Su leaned on the sofa and heaved a sigh of relief. This is done, and it can be regarded as solving an annoying problem for myself and Scarlet. Then Zhang Su called Dobby and asked him to prepare some things. Zhang Su will not have lunch in the cafeteria tomorrow. He will go to the dungeon to watch Harry and the others copy the school rules while making hot pot. After sitting on the sofa for a while, Zhang Su walked into the study, took out a 2-page proposal from the drawer, and began to write quickly. When he was helping to write a program for a programmable calculator last time, a method to deal with Voldemort suddenly popped into his mind. Since Voldemort has cast a spell on his name so that people will be sensed by him when they say his name, this gives Zhang a chance. If you start from this point and suddenly launch a DOS attack on Voldemort, what will Voldemort's reaction be? Just imagine, if tens of thousands or even tens of thousands of people chanted Voldemort's name in an infinite loop at the same time, would Voldemort crash due to the sudden overload of his brain? It is known that Voldemort is a master of occlumency, so in the face of such a tsunami-like attack, will his firewall be breached? These are all topics that need to be studied in the near future. If we do a good job of research and planning now, maybe we can give Voldemort a ruthless blow at a critical moment, and maybe even become the winner of this war. Chapter 588 Christmas Presents. In this world, hot pot can be roughly divided into 3 types. The first type is instant rinsing stove, and the second type is to put all the ingredients into the pot and cook together. The third is between the two. Cook the meat in the pot first, and then boil the vegetables after eating the meat and vegetables naturally. Diners will not stick to the rules and regulations of the 3 ways of eating, and the essence of hot pot is the free combination and whatever they want. Harry and the others, who only ate a bowl of oatmeal and a few slices of bread yesterday, didn't sleep well all night. Because Zhang made trouble in the dungeon yesterday afternoon, they couldn't eat until dinner time, as the saying goes, have children eat, poor old men. Now is the time for them to eat, and a simple dinner is difficult to satisfy their appetites, so they woke up early this morning from hunger. Fortunately, the house elves brought breakfast at this time, a glass of milk and 2 slices of bread. The simple breakfast was enough for them to pick up the quills and start copying the school rules for today. The good times didn't last long, and when Dobby reappeared in the corridor of the dungeon with big bags and small bags, the desperate cries of Harry and Ron echoed in the dungeon. Dobby first prepared a small stove, lit the stove and put a frying pan on it. Then Dobby poured some sesame oil into the hot pot, and when the oil was hot, poured the processed mutton pieces and sliced ginger into the pot and kept stirring. Soon after, the dungeon was filled with the smell of slightly charred mutton. Enough stopped Dobby. Hermione stood behind the dungeon, holding on to the iron door of the dungeon with both hands and shouting. Only by the candlelight in the corridor, she could see Dobby plugging his own ears with a big earplug. Next door, while not thinking about the smell in the air, Ginny recited "One More Day" silently, and scratched a quill across the paper with difficulty. By this time Dobby had put the fried mutton aside and put a casserole on the stove, then put the mutton pieces, various mushroom slices such as big spray mushrooms, sunshine mushrooms, and cowardly mushrooms, and several seasonings into a casserole, pour rice wine, and add water to cover the lamb. Finally, boil the water over high heat, skim off the foam, and then turn to low heat and simmer slowly. After finishing this, Dobby left with the rest of the things. In the cold dungeon, there was only a pot of mutton and mushroom pot that was steaming on the stove, and the aroma that permeated the dungeon. Killing with a soft knife is much more enjoyable and painful than a knife. In the cold cell, the 4 hungry and cold looked at the steaming casserole in the corridor outside the iron gate, and the desire to kill was ready. At this point, however, Dobby reappears, this time bringing a chair and a guitar. Dobby sat on the chair, slender fingers across the strings, and he sang along with the music. Iron doors, iron windows, iron chains holding the iron gate, and looking out. How beautiful is life outside when to eat hot food. When can I eat hot food? At the same time, there are many people suffering like Harry and the others, and Shaw, the leader of SI, is one of them. Recently, the work of MI has suffered many setbacks. At the end of summer, Shaw gritted his teeth and spent a lot of money, sending the most beautiful agent among the agents to try to lure someone from Hogwarts into his camp. As a result, the other party not only did not take the bait, but the agent he sent recently submitted his resignation and planned to go to New Zealand to herd sheep for the elderly. And in the autumn, half of the undercover agents he sent to the Death Eaters were arrested by friendly forces. The reason was that these guys thought that none of the wizards over there knew how to use computers, so they quietly set up a chat group on the internet to communicate with each other. It turned out that they didn't expect that the big boss behind the chat software they used was someone from Hogwarts, and they all got their water meters checked because of it. In winter, not long ago, Voldemort planned a kidnapping operation, and Fang used this kidnapping as a bait to carry out a series of ambushes and anti-espionage operations. As a result, some of the remaining undercover agents were lost. The more serious blow happened now. The day before yesterday, Shaw ordered Johnny Ingrid to infiltrate the pseudo-Ministry of Magic in London to inquire about intelligence. As a result, no news has been returned until now. Although Johnny's actions are sometimes unreliable, for example, he once gave the wrong weapon to a friendly army, which caused the friendly army to be injured. On the other side of the Eurasian continent, there was a little diplomatic dispute in the end, who made him have no money to compensate for the damaged public property. However, Johnny became the no agent of MI, not because his teammates were all dead, but because he was able to escape unscathed every time he performed a mission, whether he succeeded or failed. So when Johnny was 24 hours late this time and still didn't come back to report to work, Shaw realized that this mission might be bad. Just as Shaw was thinking about how to deal with the worst situation, his secretary, Futzel, knocked on the door of the office. "Your Excellency Shaw, I think there is something you should take a look at," Futzel said to his boss. "What is it?" Xylwer, whose train of thought was interrupted, asked unhappily. "It's a Christmas present for us," Futzel replied in a lower voice. "What?" Xylwer stood up. "Christmas is still many days away. Who gave the Christmas gift to whose Christmas gift, and how did it get there?" "It was given to SI," Futzel replied while pushing open the office door for his boss. "Where's that thing?" Shaw asked. "Hope it doesn't blow us up." "In the middle of the car park," said Futzel. "It's from the Royal Mail, and in what?" Shaw asked, frowning. "And the postage is payable," Futzel said with a bitter face. "Sure, When Zaire and Futzel came to the parking lot, they found that the cars in the parking lot had been cleared away, and a huge pink gift box with a height of half a person was placed in the center, and the gift box was tied with a golden ribbon. Bo, there are several people around the gift box checking it. Who can tell me what that is? Shore asked the onlookers by the parking lot. As a result, the onlookers also asked 3 questions, and no one knew what was inside the thing. At this time, a one-eyed female agent came to Zaire, holding a Christmas card in her hand. "I think it's safe," she said, handing Shore the Christmas card. Zaire took the card carefully and opened it. "RRY Christ's Happy New Year to you." "Who wrote it?" Zaire asked with a slightly cramp-faced face. "The target you asked me to deal with." The female agent who came over with the card said, "This is his handwriting." "Then you go and open our present," Zaire said to her. She shrugged, turned and walked towards the gift box. Because of the heavy losses caused by the funeral bombing, the agents of SI, are in awe of this kind of unknown origin. When they saw that someone was about to open the gift box when the inspection failed, they immediately hid away. The gift box did not have any locks installed. After tearing off the wrapping paper and opening a few buckles, the 4 walls of the entire gift box fell apart. Then Johnny Ingrid fell out of it. Chapter 589 Financial Crisis. The last class in the morning was Defense Against the Dark Arts class. When the class was over, Zhang Su was left behind by Lu Ping. Lu Ping told him that the stage of the Paddle Sisters had been counted, and how to plan tomorrow's action. "Is there any other plan?" Zhang Su spread his hands and said, "The best plan is for everyone to pretend that they don't know anything, and then pretend to meet by chance. It's not that you don't know your brother's personality. Forcibly introducing someone to him will only make him if you have a rebellious mentality. This matter will blow up." In the summer, Mrs. Weasley wanted to introduce her cousin to Black, but they broke up unhappy. After a round of ramblings, Zhang went to the dungeon to continue torturing Harry and the others. However, just because Lupin was delaying his work for a while, when he came to the dungeon, he saw Moody sitting beside the empty casserole grinning and belching at him. Zhang Su didn't have time to talk nonsense with Moody, who stole his mutton, but hurried back to the cafeteria, otherwise today's lunch would be troublesome. At noon today, the students in the cafeteria were excitedly discussing the latest announcement on the bulletin board outside the door, because Hogwarts had a rare Hogsmeade Day in December, and it was tomorrow at the same time. Next to this announcement is a poster that the New Year's Day will open tomorrow. 2 happy things overlapped together, and these 2 happy things brought more happiness to everyone. Smart people have already thought that tomorrow's Hogsmeade Day must be related to the Christmas shopping carnival on the poster, and those who know some inside information are asking Zhang Su for more details. In order to fill his hungry stomach before the lunch disappeared, Zhang Su ignored them, just stuffed something into his mouth, and said vaguely, "Just bring all your pocket money with you tomorrow. If you don't have enough money, you can borrow it from me." Zhang was willing to lend money to his classmates, not because he wanted to enter the campus loan, routine loan, and red fruit loan business, but because he wanted to take the opportunity to spend the galleon he saved in Gringotts. In addition to the small amount of money that can be lent to the students, the gallon, Zyk and Nat that the merchants in the New Year's market are preparing to make up for are all provided by Zhang. The reason he did this was mainly because Gringotts had no exchange business for galleons and renminbi at all, and it would be troublesome to exchange with British pounds again in the middle. The second reason is that Gringotts does not have a business of transferring money to the country, and he does this to facilitate the transfer of the money he has earned over the years. The goblins of Gringotts wanted to expand their business, but the relevant domestic departments directly treated Gringotts as an ordinary foreign bank, and when the goblins saw the English version of the relevant documents of the foreign bank access standards, they knew every letter, but they didn't know what it meant when they connected it. And the deeper reason is that someone Zhang knew that Gringotts might have taken the pill. Some people found that because of the isolation between the world of wizards and the world of ordinary people, coupled with a consistent style of goblins, Gringotts was very slow in responding to the galleon and local currency exchange rates. This is related to the decision-making level of Gringotts. After the goblins are in charge of Gringotts, they have been maintaining the old methods and traditions hundreds of years ago while lying down to make money. According to Bill Weasley, who worked at Gringotts, many rules and regulations in Gringotts. One update was still in the Victorian period, and the communication between them and Muggles can be delayed as long as they can. If this was the case in the old days, it wouldn't be a big deal. However, it is now 1997, a financial turmoil is sweeping across East and Southeast Asia, and the currencies of many countries are depreciating crazily in this way, a certain guy's mind is quickened. Take a chestnut. On November 11 this year, in Gringotts, South Korea, 17 galleon can be exchanged for 1 won. At the same time, 10 galleon can be exchanged for 0.80 US dollars. The exchange rate between Korean won and US dollar is 110. However, during these 2 days on December 12 to 10, 2012, the exchange rate between the Korean won and the US dollar has fallen to around 1700. 1. In the unresponsive Gringotts, 1 galleon can be exchanged for about 11 won. In the last 24 hours, Mr. Owen, the father of Michael Owen, a student of Hogwarts Eagle House, took out $100 of his private money, and he exchanged these dollars into about 0.00x 1.7 won, and then entrusted Hogwarts. The family of mathematics Professor C took these Korean won to Gringotts in Seoul and exchanged them for about 10 galleons at an exchange rate of 11,000 won. Finally, these galleons were exchanged at Gringotts in Tokyo, Japan. Paid $15. Early this morning, Mr. Owen felt that he was going crazy. He just took advantage of the poor information and increased his private money by more than half in just 24 hours. And this is still his own private money, and the funds he is operating at the same time are far more than that on his huge entrustment contract. There are several surnames such as Zhang, Delacour, and Scarlet, and several people who do not want to disclose their identities. 5 of the income of these clients belong to him. As a senior financial worker, Mr. Owen knows the ins and outs of the current Asian financial turmoil. He also knows that in the coming time, currencies such as the Indonesian rupiah, Singapore dollar, Malaysian ringgit, Thai baht, Philippine peso, and Japanese yen will continue to fall. Thinking about the profits behind this, Mr. Owen was so excited that he felt 20 years younger. He immediately began mobilizing large sums of money to make enough profits before the rest of his peers rushed into the feast like vultures smelling carrion. If those vultures that eat people but don't spit bones come into play, no matter how slow Gringotts' reaction is, they will find that something is wrong. Now, Scarlet's family members are scattered in Gringotts in South Korea, Japan, and Southeast Asia, sending real-time exchange rates between galleons and local currencies to Mr. Owen in the City of London through technological means. After the exchange rate data was analyzed by Mr. Owen, the optimal exchange sequence was obtained, and then the frontline personnel were directed to perform various operations. At the same time, Mrs. Delacour and those participants who did not want to disclose their identities were using their identities to keep inquiring about the news inside Gringotts. As soon as Gringotts makes a relevant decision, Mr. Owen can be guaranteed to get the news as soon as possible. In less than a day, the investment in the first phase of Pathfinder increased by half. This news made all the participants excited, and they increased their investment one after another. There is no impenetrable wall in this world. Mr. Owen's unusual operation has attracted some people's attention. However, now everyone is immersed in the Asian financial turmoil, and has no energy to pay attention to what Mr. Owen is doing. It is conceivable that Gringotts will face a huge crisis when this group of financial vultures discovers the fat and fresh meat of Gringotts. Chapter 590. The Ministry of Magic has no surplus food. The wall clock on the wall struck 4 times, and Scrimgeour behind the desk yawned deeply. Blowing out the candles on the table after rubbing his dry eyes from staying up late, he put down the financial statement that he had read countless times tonight. At this moment, Scrimgeour felt that he was old. When he was an Auror, he could stay up for a week and arrest black wizards, but now he couldn't stand it after 2 or 3 consecutive nights. Before getting ready to rest, Minister Scrimgeour picked up a brand new swan quill that he had just bought from the Winranju quill shop last night, dipped the ink in the ink bottle, and purchased medicines, etc. Signed his name on the material contract. There is a lounge next to Scrimgeour's office in the Hog's Head, where he can rest after working overtime. Lying on the bed, Scrimgeour found himself unable to fall asleep after tossing and turning. His mind was still thinking about the financial statement and the contract just now. A few days ago, someone from Zhang approached him quietly, told him that there was a chance to make a fortune now, and asked him if he wanted to follow suit. After listening to Zhang's explanation for more than 10 minutes, he still didn't understand how Zhang made money by currency exchange. But out of trust in Zhang and his intuition, Scrimgeour signed a contract worth, galleons with the other party in the name of purchasing medicine. If someone Zhang makes money with this money, then everyone can talk about it. In case the money is lost, he can still use this contract to find someone from Zhang to get the medicine. Just after dinner today, someone from Zhang sneaked up on him again, and then slipped a financial statement into his hand. Scrimgeour opened the financial statement, and found that the funds for purchasing medicines had undergone some operations, and after deducting the corresponding handling fees and commissions, the, galleons had become, galleons in a short period of time. 4,000 galleons. Before leaving, Zhang bought an antique quill stuck on Scrimgeour's desk for 500 galleons, and said that if the Ministry of Magic continued to invest more in purchasing medicines and other supplies, he will spend a lot of money to buy the art ink bottle on the desk. After a few days, percent of the capital invested would return, percent, which was enough to make Scrimgeour, who had a headache because of the Ministry of Magic's upcoming financial problems, take the risk. In the summer, the operation of the Ministry of Magic almost emptied the entire Diagon Alley, causing the pseudo-Ministry of Magic in London to suffer a big loss in the tax season at the end of September, and Lucius Malfoy had to adopt the highly intensified contradictory tax package system to solve part of the tax problem. The Ministry of Magic succeeded, and in the following time, the violent Death Eaters and the wizarding residents confronted each other, making the people's hearts fall to Hogsmeade. However, just as the tax season at the end of December was approaching, old Malfoy directly drew his salary from the bottom of the pot, forcing a large number of merchants who moved north to Hogsmeade to return to Diagon Alley under the threat of out of stock from upstream suppliers. Maud's market suddenly became depressed. It's not good to be treated in the same way as others, and Scrimgeour can predict that if things are allowed to develop, in the coming tax season, the Ministry of Magic will end up in the same position as the pseudo-Ministry of Magic 3 months ago and NBSP, the expenses during the war were very huge. Usually, the Ministry of Magic would spend a year's worth of money, but at this time it would be spent in just 1 quarter. At this time, faced with Zhang's temptation that if you make a medium to long-term investment, you can get profits from daring to trample on all human laws to daring to commit any crime, Scrimgeour began to consider whether to divide short, medium and for a long time. We have made many huge purchases of medicines and other materials. As for the cost of purchasing, the Minister of Magic, who was unable to come up with so much money for a while, planned to use the underground building of the Ministry of Magic in London to make a mortgage loan from Gringotts anyway. They are now in the hands of the Death Eaters, and they will be exchanged for money first. The reason why Scrimgeour couldn't sleep was that he felt that the money was too hot to hold. Unlike Mr. Zhang, he has to think about more issues than Mr. Zhang in this matter. In addition to economic issues, he also needs to consider the social and political issues behind it. Hundreds of years ago, in this very Hogshead, goblins led a rebellion. Although the rebellion was suppressed, the goblins also got the right to manage Gringotts from then on. When it comes to money issues, the goblins always look down on the wizards with a superior view, and they think it is a matter of course to sharpen the wizards' knives on economic issues. Scrimgeour didn't know how much money Mr. Zhang and the others had invested in total, but referring to his action of doubling his additional investment after seeing this period of income, he felt that in the next operation, this investment activity, the total amount will be a very exaggerated figure. Different from the normal trade in the past, if the goblins learned that someone just exchanged currency through information asymmetry and made a lot of gold coins from them for nothing, it would be strange if their mentality did not explode. If this situation intensifies, maybe the second Goblin Rebellion is not far away. Gringotts is not helpless in the face of such a situation. As long as the goblins strengthen their connection with the Muggles and adjust the currency exchange rate in time, this problem can be solved to a large extent. But Scrimgeour didn't think the goblins would make changes in a short period of time, even if they were hundreds of years older than gold coins, since he had been dealing with Gringotts since he became the Minister of Magic. He has a deeper understanding of goblins. That's a bunch of greedy, stubborn, and arrogant guys. Scrimgeour himself once said privately to others, and the whole Gringotts is full of decay and dullness. When Gringotts in the east of Asia discovers the real reason for the large loss of gold coins, and then transmits accurate news to Gringotts headquarters in London, Scrimgeour estimates that it will be next spring or even summer. Scrimgeour has nothing to do with tomorrow's spring or summer. His next task is to get a good night's sleep and recharge his spirits. He will be required to deliver a speech at the opening ceremony of the 1997 Hogsmeade Christmas Shopping Carnival tomorrow morning. Period. Looking at the alarm clock on the bedside table, he found that it was already 4:30, but Scrimgeour found that although he was tired, he didn't feel sleepy at all. He sat up from the bed, opened the drawer of the bedside table, and took out a bottle of medicine from it. After drinking the potion with a small half cap measured with the cap of the potion bottle in one gulp, He got into the bed before the potion took effect, and then fell into deep sleep immediately. Chapter 591 This cold morning. 3 the morning alarm clock rang on time, and Scrimgeour woke up immediately although he only slept for about 3 hours this time. Under the effect of the potion, the deep sleep revived him. When washing himself up after waking up, Scrimgeour found that in the mirror he had more white hair than before. Sighing a little, since he took the position of Minister of Magic, the white hair on his head has been sprouting out. He picked up a comb from the side, skillfully dipped it in the hair dye, and combed the messed up hair because of sleeping. At the same time, he dyed the gray hair back to its original color. Because he was going to attend a formal occasion today, he spent a little more time than usual on grooming. Seeing that there is still some time before the opening ceremony in the morning, Scrimgeour decided to go to Gringotts' business office in Hogsmeade first, and first try to find out what the goblins say about the mortgage loan in the basement of the London Ministry of Magic office. It's just that Scrimgeour had just entered the Gringotts business hall less than 10 minutes before he hurried out with a dark face. Dividing line. Today is a rare sunny day, and there is nothing in the sky except for the sun that just popped out from below the horizon. The sun spreads all over the land, making the snow on the roofs of nearby mountaintops and villages reflect the light from the sun. When the sunlight shone into the bedroom through the lattice curtains, Zhang Su turned sideways and saw Fu Rong's sleeping face. Looking at that delicate sleeping face, Zhang couldn't help but kiss it. After being attacked, Fu Rong woke up, pulled up the quilt to cover her face, and kicked someone Zhang lightly under the quilt. Go on to sleep, Zhang Su said softly. Fu Rong didn't answer, but kicked Zhang under the quilt again, then turned around and continued to sleep with her head covered. Mr. Zhang left the warm bed lightly, put on his clothes and washed, helped Furin tuck the quilt up, and left the room. Last night, when Zhang Su came out of the pig's hut bar and was about to return to Hogwarts, he met Fu Rong who had just returned from France. Then it took less than a second for someone Zhang to come up with an excuse for not returning at night. The day's plan is in the morning, and Hogsmeade in the morning is busy. The Aurors who got off the night shift went to the Three Broomsticks bar for a drink before going back to the dormitory to sleep. Outside the door of the bar, these Aurors could be seen greeting colleagues passing by on the morning shift. The Ministry of Magic staff on their way to the Hogshead pub this morning looked a little distracted when they talked with people on the road. They turned their heads to look outside the village from time to time. On the village side of Hogsmeade facing Hogwarts, a huge traveling tent and a huge stage have been erected. Since the Christmas shopping season is the main focus this time, all decorations are mainly in Christmas style. For Christmas decorations, you can't go wrong with Christmas trees and mistletoe. The whole tent, the shape is a huge cartoon-style Christmas tree. It is surrounded by the brown color of old tree trunks, and the silk decoration on the outer wall of the tent looks like the lines on the trunk from a distance, and its entire sloping top was made into the shape of a Christmas tree crown, with circles of colored silk and colorful lanterns hanging on layers of green silk leaves, and a lot of snow fell on it. Mr. Zhang didn't like the design of a piece of forest, sea and snow above his head, but he didn't care about it from the beginning, and now he can only accept the fait accompli. Outside the tent, outside the gate is a huge mistletoe arch, and on both sides of the arch are lined up stalls for offal, spicy hot pot, rao giamo, and kebabs. The stage not far from the tent was not complicatedly arranged. Behind the high stage was a row of newly decorated Christmas trees, and in front of it was a gate made of mistletoe. At the back of the stage, members of the Weird Sisters, a famous music group in the wizarding world of England, are making final preparations for their upcoming performance. Not far from them, Zhang Su was greeting an acquaintance. Boss Wang, good morning. Zhang Su greeted the acquaintance as he met. Hey, good morning, Boss Zhang. Boss Wang said. Hey, Boss Wang, do you want to introduce this unfamiliar beauty beside you? Zhang Su suddenly found a young girl standing beside Boss Wang, and she hadn't shown up when he was helping out these few days. This is my sister-in-law. Boss Wang introduced to Zhang Su. You know I don't know foreign languages, but she is fine, so I called her from China to help me translate. Nice to meet, nice to meet. After Zhang Su greeted Boss Wang's sister-in-law and introduced himself, he asked Boss Wang, Boss Wang, are your products in booth layout ready? Nothing will happen. Mistake, it's all ready. Boss Wang said confidently, our leather factory has made sufficient preparations to open up the European market. Not only have we prepared sufficient supplies, but our styles are also directly following the forefront of European fashion trends, such as wallets and handbags. Luggage, everything is enough. Whether it is wholesale or retail, we have considered all kinds of situations. That's good. Zhang Su nodded and said, oh, I'm afraid that everyone will travel all the way and end up not making any money. It's okay, there is no one who only eats meat and doesn't suffer losses in business. Everyone knows this kind of thing, so you don't have to worry about us. Boss Wong said indifferently, I lost money in South America last year, so this year, we are planning to make a comeback in Europe. This time, everyone is working hard, and with the official support of both sides, as long as no one comes to make trouble, there will be no shortage of business opportunities. Besides, even if it messes up again this time, at worst, I'll just run back with my aunt's womb, and just leave those goods as wages for the salesman hired here. Zhang Su at the side thought that the other party was an indomitable person at first, but then he heard the last black line, why are you so proficient in running? Soon, Mr. Zhang will find that he is running out of time, because he has been caught by Scrimgore. Boss Wong recognized Scrimgore, and when he saw that the other party was coming to find Zhang Su, he took his sister-in-law to leave in a very sensible manner. Scrimgore pulled Zhang Su to a place where no one was around, and then asked with a dark face, the Ministry of Magic in London has been mortgaged to Gringotts. Do you have any clues? Zhang Su was also shocked by the news. Why did he attack so quickly? After hearing Zhang Su's words, Scrimgore's gaze became sharp. Chapter 592. Seeing Scrimgore's expression of wanting to hit someone, Zhang looked at the time. There was still an hour before the opening ceremony, and he had to settle Scrimgore within this time, otherwise today's opening ceremony would probably be complicated. As for why Scrimgore found him in the first place, there is no need to ask why. These days, there is no one who dares to pull the two Ministry of Magic together to make troubles, except him, Zhang. Although his rank is not high enough to comply with the diplomatic principle of equivalence, he has more room for maneuver in many matters. Zhang Su pointed to the tent and said, there are a lot of people talking here, let's go inside and talk. The cold-faced Scrimgore didn't object, but just nodded. The two came to the outside of the tent gate. Zhang Su pointed to a row of security gates and said to Scrimgore, this is the security gate that was just installed last night. If anyone is carrying black magic items, the security gate will send out siren. After Zhang Su finished speaking, he walked over, and then the security gate rang beeping. Mr. Zhang scratched the back of his head in embarrassment, and said to Scrimgore on the other side of the door, look, this is quite effective, isn't it? Haha. Scrimgore didn't want to talk to him anymore. Dan Zhang Su has a small office here, which he uses when he comes to help these days. Although the area is a bit small, it is not in compliance with the rules to use it to greet the Minister of Magic, but it is important to keep it confidential. Zhang Su poured a cup of tea for the minister, and then directly sold out the mastermind behind the scenes. This incident was planned by the Americans, and we are just following along to make some money. Scrimgore, who was holding a teacup, looked at Zhang Su with a puzzled expression. He hadn't expected this answer. At the end of the day, this is all the trouble caused by you British people. Zhang Su said helplessly. Since the Gringotts Wizarding Bank was founded by the Goblin Gringot, you English wizards have been fighting with the goblins for control of Gringotts. After the Goblin Rebellion in 1612, you British wizards acquiesced to the goblins' control of Gringotts' control. And the underlying reason for that rebellion was your first attempt to control Gringotts through violent means. In the following 17th and 18th centuries, the British Ministry of Magic has been passing legislation and other obvious means and some other off-the-table means to limit the development of Gringotts and try to strengthen its control. This is why there were so many goblin rebellions in that period in the history of magic. At the same time, Gringotts is in a period of rapid expansion. The goblins have opened Gringotts almost all over the world with the help of the British colonists. It was not until 1865 that the British Ministry of Magic found that it was impossible to control the behemoth Gringotts, and then officially expressed their attitude and agreed to allow the goblins to completely control Gringotts. Court. You also know that the Ministry of Magic all over the world is very dissatisfied that the economy of the wizarding world is controlled by Gringotts of the goblins. Zhang Su continued after telling the history, but it is because you British wizards are not good at suppressing bandits. So that the goblins have the confidence to take a tough stance against the Ministry of Magic of other countries, and it also makes the Ministry of Magic of those countries have doubts about the elaboration of demon suppression, and dare not take action at will. Scrimgore, who was holding a teacup, concealed his embarrassment by drinking tea with his head down. He didn't know what Zhang Su said. It is not a joke to say that the world's wizards are unhappy with Britain for a long time. After Dumbledore became famous, he was used to pull the tiger's skin to pull the banner. One of the reasons is that the British Ministry of Magic did not do enough to suppress the goblins, and finally took the lead in compromising with the goblins. One of the other reasons. As early as the late 19th century, the ministries of magic of various countries were unhappy with the British Ministry of Magic's explicit approval of goblins to control Gringotts, but then Grindelwald started to make troubles in the early 20th century, which diverted the attention of the Ministry of Magic of various countries. Later, when Dumbledore rose, they could only hold back their displeasure. But now, Dumbledore has gone, Voldemort is only in the British Isle, and the British Ministry of Magic can't take care of themselves. This is a godsend opportunity for counterattack. Scrimgeour smiled wryly, and then asked, "Then what does this have to do with Lucius Malfoy's mortgage of the Ministry of Magic?" Zhang Su took out a box of chocolate sandwich biscuits and put them on the table, took one and ate it himself. After hearing Scrimgeour's question, he said, "I have to say that Malfoy has done a better job than you in the position of Minister of Magic." Facing Scrimgeour, who was staring at him with wide eyes, Zhang Su gave him a hell face. Then he went on to say, "The International Federation of Wizards is rotten and can't keep up with the development of the times. More and more oppressive countries believe that the only correct choice is to abandon it completely and start anew. Did you find out that the International Federation of Wizards has long formulated a plan for countries to support your British Ministry of Magic, but the Ministry of Magic of European and American countries only verbally agreed, and in fact, among the personnel sent by these countries to the UK, none one is part of the plan. Because they are all waiting for the establishment of a new organization that unites wizards from all over the world, and then they will provide all-round assistance to you in the name of this organization. Including your country." Scrimgeour asked whether a big Eastern country that has never entered the system of the International Federation of Wizards enters the new system is undoubtedly an important criterion for judging the gold content of this new system. Of course, in the new era, it is impossible for us to dissociate from the entire magical world. Zhang Su continued. The establishment of a new international system always requires everyone to do a major event together as an opportunity, and the opportunity for the establishment of this new system is to attack Lord Guling around the world. At this time, who will attack Guling? If Your Excellency Ling's attack is strong enough, then the right to speak in the new system will be greater. However, for various reasons, you Britons have been excluded from this operation, and it can be said that you have been excluded from the new system. If the UK wants to join this new system in the future, then you should do so. The benefits that have been eaten for many years have to be spit out. Fortunately, you have a Lucius Malfoy in the UK. When he was purchasing grain with a grain merchant in the United States, he accidentally learned of this information, and then broke in like a bull. Then what is he going to do? Asked Scrimgeour, with a bitter look on his face. All the dirty work is done by Death Eaters. Zhang Su leaned back on his chair, and then replied, "I have to admire Malfoy's sharp eyesight. He noticed it right away. The biggest problem facing the Ministry of Magic is that it has scruples when it needs to do dirty work, and the biggest advantage he has is that he can do dirty work without scruples. And he also guaranteed that Gringotts headquarters in Diagon Alley could be attacked if necessary." Zhang Su didn't need to say what happened next. Scrimgeour figured it out himself while trying to understand. It also gave him a headache. In this matter, Lucius Malfoy can receive a plaque with the words "National Hero" and hang it at the gate of Magi Azhar. The British Wizarding Society is a society controlled by capital, and those big bosses of capital can all realize how huge benefits Malfoy has made for Britain in this matter. Even if it was no Downing Street, they would have to pinch their noses to acknowledge Malfoy's contribution. As for Scrimgeour, if Zhang Su hadn't obliquely let him get into the car first and then told him the cause and effect of the incident, he might have been kept in the dark until the last moment. While Scrimgeour was drinking his boring tea with his head down, Zhang once again complained in his heart that the Yankees were not honest. It's not surprising to find yourself as a messenger for such an important matter, but you don't want someone like Mrs. Adams who can chat to death as the messenger of the United States. When she was at the Borough that night, Mrs. Adams asked herself out to talk to herself about it. As a result, she chose the wrong topic at the beginning, and then she had an occupational disease attack and gave herself illegitimacy, which made her think that she was here to ask questions about Grindelwald. So she had to cheer up and hide. If she hadn't written a letter explaining the situation in the end and asked her to take it back to the country, then this would have been a lot of fun. After drinking 2 cups of tea while meditating, Scrimgeour finally asked, "Which are the main countries this time?" Zhang Su counted twice with his fingers. "In addition to our 2 countries, there are also the United States, Russia, France, Germany, Italy, Portugal, Spain, Canada, Mexico, Argentina, Brazil, Australia, India, Japan, South Korea, Turkey, South Africa and Egypt." After getting Zhang Su's reply, Scrimgeour put down his teacup and left with a toothache on his face. Chapter 593. At, Scrimgeour gave an impassioned speech on the stage, the content of whose speech is nothing more than that the current situation is very good, everyone is preparing for the festival, so it is time to take advantage of this good situation to buy more New Year's goods. And someone Zhang stood under the stage, with Furin on the left, Luna on the right, and Ginny, who kept kicking herself behind. Ginny was released after serving her sentence last night. The first thing she did after she came out of the dungeon was to seek revenge from someone Zhang. As a result, she got the news that someone Zhang had already gone to Hogsmeade, so she waited until this morning to kick him a few times to relieve her hatred. Fu Rong looked back at the angry Ginny, then at Zhang Su, who pretended not to care, smiled and shook her head and ignored them. While the Minister of Magic of the North was making a speech to a large group of wizards in the audience, the Minister of Magic of the South was also reporting his recent work to his master. Voldemort and Bellatrix had disappeared for days, and this was their first regular meeting since their return yesterday. As for where the 2 of them went during the period, the Death Eaters present were very sensible and didn't ask. Rodolphe Lestrange was taken away when the Magias Hurong was burned, so the Death Eaters in the conference room were all in a stable mood. Only Snape vaguely knew that what Voldemort was going to do was related to the previous battle in front of St. Mungo's Gate. Voldemort first asked him to obtain the memories of all the Death Eaters who escaped that day, and then took the bottles containing the memories with him, just disappeared. After that, except for a few orders to kidnap Mrs. Weasley, no one knew where he went or what he did. Snape's intuition told him that there was a guy who should know something, but he didn't say anything. At this point, Malfoy reports on the Northern Ministry's proposal for a Christmas truce. After hearing this, Voldemort was non-committal, but tapped the table with the Elder Wand lightly according to a specific rhythm, and then signaled Malfoy to continue reporting. The next item was about attacking Mr. Guling. Malfoy spent more than 20 minutes reporting the ins and outs of this incident to Voldemort in detail. After listening to all the content, Voldemort did not speak, but stood up and walked to the window to pace back and forth. The Death Eaters on both sides of the long table looked at the Dark Lord with bated breath, fearing that their own voices would interrupt their master's train of thought. It took a full 5 minutes before Voldemort returned to his seat and sat down. "Lucius, is Draco still in Azkaban?" Voldemort asked. The old horse didn't expect Voldemort to ask him this question first, so he was taken aback on the spot. Madame Ma, who was sitting next to him, looked at him anxiously, with pleading eyes. The old horse ignored his wife's gaze, nodded and said, "Yes, he's still locked there. Ever since a large number of Dementors were wiped out by Zhang Su in the Peak District National Park, the remaining Dementors hid back in Azkaban to recuperate. The Northern Ministry of Magic thought it was useless, so they ignored it, but they didn't know that it was reopened by Voldemort. However, since the Dementors have been cut off from the source of food additives, the situation of the prisoners there is now much better than in previous years." Voldemort played with the Elder Wand and said, "It is a youthful mistake to dare to disobey my orders for a girl." Lao Ma and his wife dared not speak. After Draco Malfoy took Molly Lawrence from Hogwarts in the hope of catching Death Eater's internal spies and failed, Voldemort ordered to deal with the useless Molly. However, to the surprise of the Death Eaters who were going to carry out the mission, Master Malfoy actually injured them, and then ran away with his cousin. In the end, the old horse personally went out to capture the pony and the others, and then threw the 2 of them to Azkaban before Voldemort got mad. Although Voldemort was very annoyed at the ponies daring to disobey his orders, but considering that the old horse was very useful to him, he sold his favor to the old pony first and postponed the pony's disposal. For Voldemort, betrayal was a crime without pardon. Seeing the old matter brought up by the owner again, the old horse and his wife suddenly became nervous. "I should kill them both." Voldemort glanced at the pale Malfoys, and then continued, "But I can't give them both a chance." Under the expectant eyes of the old horse and his wife, Voldemort said, "Let them go and help me retrieve something, and then I will act as if nothing happened. Thank you for your kindness, my master." Although he could guess that helping Voldemort would risk his life, The old horse still thanked his master for giving his son a chance to live. "But I don't want to see them both again," said Voldemort. "I will send them to the United States afterwards." Laumar replied immediately. After dealing with this trivial matter, Voldemort glanced at the Death Eaters on either side of the long table. The Death Eaters knew that their master was about to give an order, so they straightened up immediately. Goblins, those greedy, lowly low creatures, have been crawling on the bodies of noble wizards to suck blood for hundreds of years. Voldemort said with a sullen face, "This history should end, and those low animals should be in prison cage, working as slaves for our noble wizards." The eyes of the Death Eaters present here are suddenly brightened. Gringotts is such a huge piece of fat. If you can take a bite, you will get back all the money that was cheated by a certain guy back then, and you can even carve up the guy. The contents of the vault. Although magic is the foundation of everything for wizards, no one thinks money is too small. Then Voldemort ordered, "Lucius, you reply to Hogsmeade, we agree to a temporary ceasefire before the Christmas holiday. Severus, you start your selection today. August, Gargson, Selwyn, you are now responsible for monitoring every move of Gringotts." The orders were issued one after another, and the Death Eaters whose names were called stood up one after another to accept the orders. Finally, Voldemort said, "I want Gringotts as your Christmas present to me." Unlike the Ministry of Magic in other countries, which only used economic and administrative means to attack local Gringotts, Voldemort chose the most brutal and straightforward approach to seize control of Gringotts. Kill all the goblins, then Gringotts will naturally fall into his hands. If the goblins dare to launch a rebellion again, they must first ask the ones in the hands of the Death Eaters whether they agree. Only Bellatrix knew that most of her master's hatred of the goblins in Gringotts was due to the fact that a cup he had entrusted to his collection had been moved by the goblins to some guy's vault. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 594. The soup base made of licorice, star anise, grass fruit, clove, cinnamon, sand ginger, and other spices is boiling in the iron pot, and the steam and aroma from the pot are flying in the cold air. Together a string of beef intestines, beef lungs, tripe, beef brisket, beef tendon, beef balls and pieces of radish strung together with small bamboo sticks lie in the boiling soup, waiting for diners to choose. Zhang Su, who was holding long chopsticks, fell in love with a bunch of beef louvers, and immediately stretched out the chopsticks, ready to put them into his bowl. Unexpectedly, another pair of chopsticks caught on the string of beef louvers at the same time. Zhang Su raised his head and looked up along the chopsticks. Suddenly, he saw a delicate face, and a pair of sapphire-like eyes looked at him at the same time. "Ladies first," Zhang Su said to the other party with a smile. The other party smiled at Zhang Su, and then put the niubei into his bowl. At this moment, Zhang Su's heart beat faster and faster. After realizing that something was wrong with him, he hurriedly turned his attention to the waffle in the pot, while silently chanting the names of Fu Rong and the others in his heart. When he said Gabriel's name, he felt a sudden shock in his heart, and he knew why this feeling came from. The girl who looked about the same age as her should be a Vila, and not a mixed-race Vila like Fleur and Gabrielle, but a pure-blood Vila. Zhang Su, who was already prepared in his heart, looked at the other party again, and found that the Vila had already checked out and left. The publicity work for the New Year's market, which opened today, started early. In just a few days, readers and listeners were bombarded with hard and soft advertisements from newspapers to radio stations. The density of reports even exceeded. The Quidditch World Cup is held every 4 years. Add to that several other countries on the continent such as France, Germany and Italy who jumped in line halfway, and it's no surprise that the news has spread beyond the UK. After choosing the beef offal, he took out the bamboo sticks and paid the boss, and after scooping 2 spoonfuls of hot sauce into the bowl, Zhang Su took the bowl and came to the seat beside him to start eating breakfast. Furin, Luna and Jenny went into the tent to buy things together. Zhang Su found an excuse to leave the team accompanying the 3 girls to go shopping. Zhang thought he did not have such a strong combat power. Facts have proved that in the cold winter, eating something warm is a common desire of many people. Many customers who came to purchase decided to buy something to warm up after being blown by the cold wind. Those who don't feel cold here are probably fans of the Weird Sisters. In front of the stage they jumped up and down following the singing of the band on the stage, and sweat came out. As time goes by, more and more customers come to shop. All the students from Hogwarts who were in the 3rd grade and above, except those who were locked up, all came. Even for first-year and second-year students, Professor McGonagall was lenient and agreed that they could go to Hogsmeade accompanied by their parents. Those parents, who were all ordinary people, were also organized by the Muggle Parents Mutual Aid Association. They first gathered in Edinburgh, and then took the train to Hogsmeade early in the morning to reunite with the children. Michael Owen and his mother saw Zhang Su, who was eating, so they came up to greet him. Since Mr. Owen is focusing on making money now, he is still staying in the office building in London, leading his team to desperately poach the corners of the goblins. Not far from him, Granger the wife came too, and they walked with Mr. Weasley, and seemed to be comforting Mr. Weasley. Immediately afterwards, a wizard caught Zhang Su's attention. The wizard's complexion looked a little sallow, his long chestnut hair was casually draped over his shoulders, but his beard was carefully groomed. Judging from his appearance, he must have never seen this wizard before, but his walking posture and the expression on his face made Zhang Su feel very familiar, which reminded him of someone who should not be here. So he walked over, and when he walked to the side of the wizard, he asked in a low voice, "What is the principle of fertilizing sugar cane?" "Reapply basal fertilizer and top dress fertilizer in stages at the right time." The other party also replied in a low voice. "Why are you here?" Zhang Su asked in surprise. "I'm not afraid of being recognized. Can't I come to buy things?" said Lucius Malfoy in disguise. "I think you should tell him about that. As long as Scrimgeour doesn't want to become a sinner in Britain, then he can just arrest me. Let's go." "You are awesome," Zhang Su said, and then he pointed to Lupin and Black in front of him. "If you are caught by them, I'm afraid you won't even have the chance to meet Scrimgeour. The higher-ups have agreed to a truce plan before Christmas," the old horse said. "At the same time, we will attack Gringotts." Zhang Su frowned, and his intuition told him that the meaning of hands-on in Lao Ma's mouth was not simple. "Arrange for me to meet Scrimgeour later," Ma continued. "It's just the two of us." Looking at Zhang Su's expression looking at him, Lao Ma said, "Americans are uneasy and kind, and so are you. The Gringotts system has collapsed, and you are ready for how to rebuild the new financial system in a short time, but we haven't gone from goblins to you and Americans before. I don't think it's time to suck blood on British wizards." "Hiss." Zhang Su gasped. "From my standpoint, I think it's best to sell you now." Then the old horse gave Zhang Su a hard look. "That's fine." Zhang Su nodded and said, "Wait for you to walk around inside first, and we will let you know after we have made arrangements here." The old horse nodded. As far as he was concerned, there were not many places where he could converse with Scrimgeour, because neither of them could trust the other. The New Year's goods market is full of neutral third-party sites, and it is the least bad and acceptable choice for them. "Hey, she's here too," the old horse said suddenly. "Who?" Zhang Su asked while looking for suspicious people in the crowd. "MRS. Paddle," replied the old horse. "By the way," Zhang Su suddenly remembered something, "you are using my name to do business with Mrs. Paddle and the others. How should this account be settled?" "You know," the old horse asked in surprise. "How can I not know such a big thing?" Zhang Su replied angrily. "That's my son's responsibility, you go to him," Lao Ma said without hesitation. At this moment, two people suddenly appeared in front of Zhang Su and Lao Ma, blocking their way. Chapter 595 Visiting the Exhibition 1, 2. "Hello, sir. I'm Diana, a reporter from Reuters. Can I interview you?" Among the two who stopped Zhang Su and Lao Ma, the reporter who planned to interview Lao Ma was the Vila who had just snatched Zhang Su's bunch of beef veal at the cattle stall behind her. A Chinese man with a camera was preparing to take pictures of the interviewee. "No, I'm leaving." After Ma finished speaking, he turned and left, leaving Zhang Su and the two reporters in the cold wind. The Vila reporter didn't seem to be shocked by the old horse's cold attitude. She turned around, looked at Zhang Su with a smile, and repeated the question just now. Only then did Zhang Su carefully look at the two people in front of him. This Vila is not short, and Furin is taller. Although she is wearing a thick down jacket, it can't hide her tall and well-proportioned figure beneath her winter hat. A strand of blonde hair poked out on her delicate face. One can vaguely see a shadow similar to Furin. She is holding an interview book in her right hand, and the glove of the left hand holding the pen can see a bulge on the ring finger, which should be wearing a ring. Could it be a relative from the Furin family? Zhang Su thought the possibility of this situation is very high, because he is quite famous among the relatives of Furin's family. If the other party is a relative of Furin, It is not strange to know him and come to interview him. What made Zhang Su feel strange was the photographer standing behind the veil. The age of the other party seems to be a bit older, and I always feel as if I have seen him somewhere, but I can't remember it. Maybe I have met the elders of the other party. As for his left hand holding the camera, traces of finger rings can also be seen under the glove. It seems that the journalists are still husband and wife. Since the other party may be a distant relative, then he can't just leave without giving the other party face like llama. Yes. Zhang Su nodded and replied. What do you think of today's Christmas shopping carnival? Diana asked. Zhang Su organized his language, and then replied, whether it is a wizard or an ordinary person, human development and progress are like the Thames River rolling forward. Although the world economy has experienced some ups and downs recently, there is a general trend for countries to open up and integrate. It has not changed. The industrial chain, value chain, and supply chain continue to extend and expand. They not only drive the global flow of production factors, but also deepen economic exchanges between countries in the world, and create a lot of wealth for each country. In the magical world here, the mutual cooperation and complementary advantages of various countries are also the objective requirements of the development of productive forces, and also represent the direction of the evolution of production relations. In this process, the magic world of each country, like the world of ordinary people, gradually forms a community of interests, a community of responsibility, a community of shared future. Whether the future is sunny or rainy, cooperation and mutual benefit are the only correct choices. This is not only dictated by economic laws, but also in line with the historical logic of the development of human society. In the future, I hope that such events can be held every year to strengthen, deepen and accelerate economic exchanges among countries, push the world economy on the track of recovery and growth, and lead the world economy to move forward along the right track. The conversation on the scene stopped after 2 minutes, and Diana recorded several pages in the notebook during the period. The photographer behind her took a few photos of Zhang Su. Next, Diana asked Zhang Su about the local situation. At this point, Zhang Su recounted what Scrimgeour said this morning in his own words. After answering this question, Diana thanked Zhang Su for accepting the interview, then said goodbye and left. After the two of them left, Zhang Su saw that they continued to interview other guests outside, and the next interviewee caught by them was Scarlet. After calling and reporting to relevant people that the minister of the Ministry of Magic in the South wanted to borrow a place to have a secret meeting with the minister of the Ministry of Magic in the North, Zhang Su had nothing else to do, so he walked towards the exhibition tent. The entire New Year's goods market is divided into clothing, food, housing, transportation, medicine, books, daily necessities, and alchemy as a bridgehead to open up the European market. Domestic merchants have tried their best. Many products have been improved to meet the needs of local customers. While rushing to the airport, the bosses called the factory and immediately started producing new products in small batches. After the matter of the exhibition was settled, the first batch of products had already left the factory and were on their way to the airport. At first Zhang thought that there was nothing to visit in this exhibition for him, but after he took 2 steps inside, he realized that he was very wrong. In the past few years when he went abroad, many fields in China have made great progress in innovation. Many products that were high-end and atmospheric a few years ago have been industrialized. In 1991, the robe that Zhang Su wore could be heated, cooled, protected from rain, wind, and dust by inserting a card. It was still a high-end handmade product from weaving to clothing. However, in the past few years, with the breakthroughs in spinning, weaving and printing and dyeing technology, the process of mixing magic materials with cotton fibers or chemical fibers on the drawing frame and then spinning them into yarns and looms will become the process of weaving yarns with different functions into cloth according to specific rules has matured and been widely promoted, making the production of cloth with various special effects enter the era of mechanization, which greatly reduces the threshold for the manufacture of magic clothing. On this basis, a variety of clothing and clothing with constant common spells entered the era of mass production. In front of the booth of Yongchang Cotton Textile Printing and Dyeing General Factory, Zhang Su saw Mrs. Majin, the proprietress of Madame Majin's gown specialty store, bargaining with the sales manager, and the owner of Fengai Wizard clothing store was talking with the factory manager after walking into the booth room inside. Going inside is the ready-to-wear area compared with raw material manufacturers with few customers. Crowds gathered in front of the booth selling ready-made garments. From the top hat that can't be blown off by strong winds, The warm thin stockings that can be worn at minus, degrees, to the rainproof, dustproof and other functions of Grindelwald's coat. Tina Goldstein's same style, leather jackets, Nagini's, long skirts and other European-style retro-style clothing have attracted countless customers from all over Europe to snap up. Zhang also saw a disguised Minister of Magic asking a waiter to pack a windbreaker, a skirt and a dozen stockings for him. Looking at all kinds of suits, Zhang thought about whether he should give Voldemort a decent set of clothes for Christmas. This year he wears a ragbag all day long. Not only does he lose value, but he also loses value as his enemy. Look at the first generation of the Dark Lord. Although his head is bald, he is not young, and he has more noses than the second generation, but he does not fall below the line of excellent in clothing matching. King style. After walking a few more steps, Zhang Su was stopped by a female staff member. "Sir, please stay, the front is the women's section." The staff said to Zhang Su, "The men's section is on your left." Zhang Su was taken aback. He was too busy thinking about things just now, and didn't notice that there was a women's underwear area in front of him, so he took out the work badge of his exhibition staff, and walked in under the suspicious eyes of the female staff. 30 seconds later, Zhang was thrown out by several female professors from Hogwarts. 50/5 ml. Period. Chapter 597 Visiting the Exhibition, Greek Letter Pi. Little Lolita's attempt to show off her cuteness in exchange for a discount failed, and in the end she could only pout and buy a dozen cans at the original price. Seeing that everyone is relatives, Zhang Su took a lollipop from his inventory as a gift for her. Although the Zhang family came to the UK mainly for tourism, and secondly for business, but they were not at the booth on the first day of opening. If there are only employees and no boss here, it is a bit outrageous. The booth at the pharmaceutical factory is not suitable for everyone to get together, so Zhang Su's grandparents all watched the excitement at the booth of the Basilisk Farm and helped out. So, when Zhang Yan came to the booth with a big blonde beauty, he was surrounded by crowds. "This is Ms. Hood, the proprietress of the coffee shop in the village here." Zhang Su hurriedly introduced. "She is here to see the goods." Huda on the side showed a well-trained smile. In fact, she didn't mind causing Zhang Su a little trouble in her heart. If she knew that Zhang Su's elders were here, she would hold Zhang Su's arm. The arm came over. "Welcome, Ms. Hood." As soon as he heard that it was a business, Mr. Zhang greeted him in English. "Our products are exclusive in the world and have a rich variety. Zhang Su, please introduce to Madam." "What?" Zhang Su never thought that this task would fall on him. At this time, the old man's voice reached his ears. "Use your beauty trick to fool people, and I will give you a kickback when the time comes. Cyrillic lettered Khan, this is my grandpa." Zhang Su could only take Hood to the booth behind the booth, pointing to the exhibits next to him and introducing them. "The basilisk meat we sell is divided into two categories, one is chilled and the other is canned. After the basilisk is slaughtered, the cold fresh meat is quickly frozen to between 0 and -4 degrees Celsius. The storage time at -4 degrees Celsius is generally about 10 days, which is enough time to be airlifted to the UK. There are many types of canned food, including braised sauce, black bean sauce, spiced spice, tomato sauce, curry, thick soup and other categories. The price is negotiable, and I will give you the wholesale price. You can buy some of the same first and try it out." "Help the delivery door?" Hood asked. "You can't let me, a lady, carry so many things around the venue, can you?" Hood said to the puzzled Zhang Su. "That's easy to say." Zhang Su took a business card from the table next to her and handed it to her. "If you want to help with errands and deliver things in the future, you can find them. Sock Logistics." Hood looked at the Sock's logo and name on the business card, confused. "How did you come up with such a name?" "Because this logistics company is house-elves from the manager to the employees, and only a few shareholders are human." Zhang Su explained. "Their managers are that many." "That's okay." Hood's eyes widened in surprise. She knew about house-elves. For her, hearing that house-elves started a company and that Prince Charles would ascend the throne tomorrow was even more shocking. "Why can't it work?" Zhang Su said indifferently. "It's not strange to be self-reliant. Those little fairies who create atmosphere for banquets, dances and other activities live by renting out themselves. The performance company formed by Vila is even better. They yell at us lions on the grounds that the law and order conditions in the UK are not good. It's no surprise that house elves run around transporting, and they also start companies in the traditional domestic industry." Hood's ability to accept is very strong, and he accepted this fact for less than a minute. In the matter of opening more companies, there are still many wizards who find it difficult to accept, especially those older pure-blood wizards. Even the Wheel-Eyes couldn't accept it at first, but Hermione finally convinced them. Among the half-blood and muggle-born young wizards, there are quite a lot of people who can accept it. They don't have the deep-rooted prejudices of old-school wizards, and they've dealt with house-elves in the kitchen a lot over the years, and it's much more reliable to let house-elves deliver things to owls, which makes Stu's company a good one start. Moreover, the two companies, Socks Logistics and Socks Housekeeping, are not only run by house-elves. The 4 shareholders behind the company are all human beings, which makes those wizards who oppose it feel better. It's just that the company's 2 public shareholders are still copying the school rules in the Hogwarts dungeon. As for the other 2 shareholders who did not want to be identified, one of them is now missing, and the other is purely using this company as a channel to transfer private money from Gringotts. In this New Year's festival, Socks Logistics has become the only designated delivery company, and customers can use this company to transport the purchased goods to their designated places in Europe in order to promote the company's brand name. The only shareholder in the board of directors who can move freely and the company manager unanimously decided that all delivery fees from the New Year's market will be, % off. After listening to Zhang Su's explanation, Hood looked in disbelief at the house elf, who was wearing a yellow pillowcase with red socks embroidered on the back and was putting canned food in the same yellow backpack. He always felt that this company represented the meaning is not simple. When she finished paying the house elf staff, the house elf disappeared with a BIU. 1 minute later, the house elf came back with a BIU, and then handed a delivery receipt with a cat's paw print on it respectfully to Hood with both hands. The business talk was over, and Hood still had to go shopping, so Zhang Su also left his booth with her. "Is it your idea that the house elves start a company?" Hood asked after receiving a leaflet from the beverage company. "No." Zhang Su shook his head and said, "I just analyzed what industries house elves can be engaged in, and the person who started the operation from scratch was Hermione Granger. She invested all her property in the company got in, and then she got her first investment from Harry Potter." "So how much did you invest?" Hood asked. "No comment." Zhang Su replied, "But the investment plan she gave me was returned and changed almost 10 times before I agreed to invest in this company." "You are so strict," Hood said with a smile, and then she pointed, "Let's go to that tea shop." Zhang Su and she walked to the booth of a tea distributor, and said at the same time, "This is necessary. Business investment cannot be sloppy." This can be regarded as a practical lesson for her. "As you know, I am now in the started a company. In business talk business, I am not like Harry Potter, just relying on her words to get the money out. If you want to invest, I suggest you get involved as soon as possible. My company hired analysts are very bullish on this market. If you don't want to have annoying negotiations with other shareholders, you can buy my shares." Hood covered his chest with his hands again, and looked at Zhang Su in surprise. "Since you are optimistic about this company, why are you still willing to sell your shares to me? Do you have any other plans for me?" "Do I have other plans for you? Don't you understand?" Zhang Su gave her a sideways look. "I won't give you ginger and fish cake," said Hood firmly. "Hey." Zhang Su sighed and said, "I am willing to sell the shares to you because with your participation, I can make this cake even bigger. Don't say you don't know, you are on guard against my level. Only the first level of 2 whole socket. A company in which I have a lot of shares. It's strange if you don't put it under the microscope to guard against it. Who knows if you will use this as an opportunity to provoke the house elves to rebellion when the time is ripe." Hood whispered. Zhang Su shrugged and ignored this. When Zhang Su and Huda were about to enter the tea dealer's booth, there was a burst of noise from the other side of the tent, followed by a lot of sobbing sounds. 50/5 ml Chapter 598 Visiting the Exhibition, LG 10,000. "What's going on?" Hood nervously looked in the direction where the sobs came from. Zhang Su looked at his watch and said nonchalantly, "It's okay, it's just that the first movie this afternoon is over." In one corner of the tent, a small theater with, seats was built to show movies. "What kind of movie are you showing? Isn't it a romance movie? How could it make people cry?" Hood asked puzzled. "A good romance movie is one that can make people cry," Zhang Su replied. "This is a big production produced by the Hogwarts Film Association this year." "Oh, what's the content about?" Hood asked how. "The name of the movie is The Love Record of a Headless Jazz," Zhang Su replied. "The story tells that at the end of the 15th century, A knight who was a court wizard was about to live a happy life with his beloved new wife. Met a lady in the park at night. So he cheated. Hood asked. What are you thinking? Not all love stories unfold like this. Zhang Su said angrily. The lady's teeth were a little crooked, so Sir used magic to correct her. However, the magic spell came out. By mistake, the lady's teeth turned into 10-inch tusks. The knight was sentenced to death, and had his head beheaded the next day. However, this knight became a ghost after his death. Next, Sir, who turned into a ghost, realized that there was something strange about his death, so he launched an investigation. It turned out that he found out. Forget it, I won't spoil it. If you want to know, go to the cinema and watch it yourself. At this time, Zhang Su noticed that Hood's face was a little strange. What's wrong? Zhang Su asked. The corner of Hood's mouth twitched, and he said, you should know that court wizards belong to our department, right? It's just that there was no secrecy law at that time, so there was no obvious boundary between the two sides. Zhang Su nodded. When I was young, I used to read a lot of old histories, continued Hood. If I remember correctly, this is the story of Sir Nicholas de Mimsy Porpington. And he is still in the ghost. Stay in Hogwarts in your form. Yes. Zhang Su replied, this story is adapted from his real experience, and also refers to some Muggle movies. I remember that he was framed and killed because he was involved in a court struggle. How can there be any love story in it? Hood said. That's what the person said. Zhang Su shrugged and said, and these are not contradictory. There will be another one later, I invite you to go and have a look. Zhang Su finally said. Hood nodded non-committally. The two visited the booth of a tea distributor and a pastry maker from France, and after Hood negotiated a business of importing pastries from France through Sox Logistics every week, they were half a minute before the start of the second movie into the cinema. When the two of them rushed to the cinema, it was already full, and the audience was very happy. What kind of story does this movie tell that the first audience can silence men and women cry? It doesn't matter if there are no seats. Zhang took advantage of the privilege to bring Hood in, and then used the transformation technique to add chairs in the corridor at the end. The first scene of the movie is in a harvested vineyard, the living Nick and his new wife who just got married the day before, and the farmers in the territory are singing and dancing to pick ripe grapes and prepare to make wine. Wholesale dog food. The art direction for this scene is the Patel sisters from India. What follows is the story of Xiun's love to death. Nick, in despair in the prison cell under the moonlight, shouted I can fix her teeth in front of the bar window, which fully demonstrated his longing for life and his love for life before he died. The despair of death is vividly expressed. Then there's the scene where the executioner takes 46 blows with the axe to completely decapitate Nick. This scene was something Nick strongly requested. At the end of this scene, Nick's head is rolling on the ground, and the expression of nostalgia and despair on his face can still be seen. At this time, Nick, who played his own ghost, appeared on the stage. After seeing his wife faint in tears at his funeral, Nick, who turned into a ghost, decided not to appear in front of his wife again. While he was wandering around aimlessly, he heard the news that his former friend was about to propose to his widow wife. On the day of the proposal ball, Nick, who returned to his castle, hid his head in the lounge, planning to give his friend an unexpected surprise, and then asked him to treat his wife well in the days to come. However, Nick's had heard a conspiracy under the lounge chair. It was a conspiracy that he was killed, and it was his own territory that his friend proposed to his wife. At the same time, Mrs. Nick told the moon on the terrace how she missed her dead husband. At this moment, Nick, who had just become a ghost for a short time, failed to control his body perfectly, and his body floated in front of his wife. Nick, unaware that his existence has been exposed to his wife, is furious and maces up the proposal ball while awkwardly hiding himself. The technical director for the scene is Peeves. That night, after the guests dispersed, Nick was found by his wife who was hiding in the bedroom closet. Facing his tearful wife, Nick clumsily used his head as a prop to perform juggling in an attempt to amuse his wife. As a result, the harder he performed, the more his wife cried. When one person and one ghost were distributing dog food and exploring the truth of the matter, they found themselves involved in a huge conspiracy. In 1491, a French businessman, after receiving the support of France and Scotland, claimed to be Richard, Duke of York, the second son of the former British King Edward IV, and raised troops against the current British King Henry VI. And it was part of the plan to assassinate Henry VI by tampering with Nick's one to let the crooked-toothed Ms. Griff, who was tricked into the park, grow fangs, so that he could be executed. At the same time, the villains who discovered that Nick has turned into a ghost and the plans may have been exposed have resorted to various methods in an attempt to obstruct the investigation of Nick and his wife. They even found a spiritual master from the East and his assistant, a deadly poisonous plant with a variety of poisons, to assassinate the Nicks. After some gossip stories and accidents, most of the complex here comes from the real deeds of a certain agent. Henry Vitae did not drink the poisoned cider at the last moment, and the villain's conspiracy was finally revealed open and be wiped out. It's just that in the end, people and ghosts have different paths. The tragedy at the beginning and the storyline of comedy in between made the audience think that the ghost couple would continue to live together in the finale until Mrs. Nick came to the end of her life. However, in the final scene, an unexpected discovery forces Nick to leave his wife. What was originally thought to be a happy ending was torn to pieces in front of the audience, who were caught off guard. In the end, the scene where Nick ghost kissed his sleeping wife goodbye made the audience cry even more. After the movie, the audience left the theater with boundless sympathy for the Nicks and hatred for the Frenchies. 50/5 ml Chapter 599 Visiting the Exhibition, Log 1024. It was already noon when we came out of the movie theater. At this time, the enthusiasm of the customers in the venue was still unabated, and the number of customers was increasing. Mobile terminal. The problem of lunch was not easy to solve. The eating places inside and outside the venue were full of people, and it took a lot of time to queue up. Zhang Su took out his mobile phone and called Furin. As a result, they were already full when they tasted food at each booth, and they were about to start the second half of the shopping trip. So Zhang Su simply took Hood to his office in his office area, planning to use a small self-heating hot pot with slices of bread to deal with lunch. When the two of them walked to the office area, they saw a wizard with long chestnut hair and a sallow face coming out of the office with large and small bags in both hands. If it weren't for the special place where he came out, he would look no different from the other wizards who came to shop in the venue. When Lao Ma passed by Zhang Su and the others, he just glanced at them subconsciously, and then left as if nothing had happened. At the same time, Scrimgeour left through another entrance and exit of the office area where Zhang Su could not see. In the office, while waiting for the small hot pot to finish heating, Hood asked, "What other movies did you make? Why, do you want to get the distribution rights?" Zhang Su said, "The distribution rights in the world of ordinary people have already been discussed, but if they are to be screened, professional directors should be asked to re-edit the editing, soundtrack, etc., and even some places need to be reshot. After all, this is just the work of some young people and students. It's okay to fool the wizards who have never seen it, but it's still too immature to face the world. In addition to this one, we have also filmed two. One is The Snow Queen, which tells about the fairy tale world where the eldest princess born to the king and queen is a wizard. When the eldest princess was young, she used magic and her younger sister accidentally hurt her when she was playing around, so the terrified king and queen ordered the eldest princess to hide her uniqueness, but the eldest princess, who was afraid that her magic would hurt others again, also got it. Autistic, became a squatting at home. After going through a lot of stories later, the eldest princess finally got out of the haze of her heart, saved her country, won the recognition of the people, and finally ascended the throne as king. There is another one called The Fall of the Prince, which tells the story of a prince with a bright future who degenerates into a black wizard step by step, then kills his father, destroys his country, and is finally wiped out by 25 warriors. Stories in Ice-Ground Citadel. While talking, it was time. After opening the lid, the aroma of the small hot pot filled the whole office. There are 2 boxes of small hot pot. Hood chose the crispy beef tripe box. Zhang Su dragged the tomato beef tripe in front of him, so the two held a slice of bread in one hand and a fork in the other, and finished today's lunch. "Have you made 4 films so far?" Hood asked, who picked up a piece of tripe from a small hot pot with a fork. "The subject matter you chose is very interesting. You can see it." Zhang Su frowned, and then tied a kelp knot. The movie 3 years ago told the story of the conflict between deadly animals and humans. The story of Sir Nicholas I watched just now told the story of the intersection between our ancestors and ordinary people. Just now listen to what you said. The first movie is about the conflicts between ordinary parents, relatives, friends and wizard children. The second movie is about even if there are demons among us who have extraordinary powers, but there will still be demons. The story of being wiped out by the side of justice. With these films leaving an impression on ordinary people, when we expose them, they won't be affected so much? Why are you looking at me like that? Hood finally asked. Opposite Hood, Zhang Su's hand holding the fork stopped in midair, but kept looking at Hood from below. If Hood hadn't known what kind of virtue the other party was, he would have thought that he was trying to conspire against him. I didn't expect you to be very smart, Zhang Su said with an exaggerated expression. I understood my intention in such a short time. Few of those people in Hogwarts could have thought of this at the beginning. They always want to shoot something that looks really cool. I really think so. At the beginning, these movies were mixed with magic movies, and the public could easily accept them. When we exposed them, we told them which movies were actually not magic movies but realistic life movies, so that it will make it easier for people to accept our existence. In addition to movies, the same is true in novels and comics. If I wasn't smart, I would have been wiped out by you, including people and cats, Hood said. Don't talk nonsense. Zhang Su hastily denied. I'm only interested in your cat, not your people. Should I be happy or sad now? Hood asked. Whether you are happy or sad, all you need to do is smile at this time. Zhang Su replied. You've been with me all this afternoon, aren't you afraid that your girlfriend will have an opinion? Hood asked after finishing his box of hot pot. This is the first time you've been with me for so long and so many years. I'm afraid that you will have nothing to write in your report tonight. Zhang Su replied. Seeing that Zhang Su suddenly changed the topic to his own job, Hood, who found the topic boring, gave a tisk and stopped talking. Zhang Su shrugged and turned to make tea. After drinking tea and chatting about cats, the two left the office after a short rest and continued to stroll around the venue. Hood walked around in front of a Chang van for 5 minutes. Hood, the cargo box in the back of this car can hold a container's worth of goods. Zhang Su, yes. If Churchill had vehicles of this kind, Dunkirk would not have left so many weapons and supplies behind. Hood, can this car run on water? Zhang Su, well, if Hitler had, of these cars back then, maybe Operation Sea Lion would have been successful. Hood, can this car fly? Zhang Su, well, due to the trade control issues of various countries, it is controversial whether a flying car is classified as an aircraft, so we can't export a version that can fly yet. Hood, can I get a mortgage? Zhang Su, yes. Then Hood quietly asked Zhang Su, have you used such technology in the military field? Zhang Su looked around and replied in a low voice, a few years ago, a transport vehicle fell off a cliff in Assam, and a company was cancelled after the incident. 50/5 ml. Period. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.